Hey guys! Today we'll be covering the manhwa. She's a villainess, but her husband is handsome. If you enjoy the video, please remember to like and subscribe so we can bring you more recap content. Our story starts at a very steamy scene. Right out the gate, we find ourselves in a fancy bedroom where Lamaine, our female protagonist, is struggling to fend off her super gorgeous and handsome husband, Cedric. And if you're already wondering why she's even trying to resist such a gorgeous man in the first place, don't worry, we'll get to that. But what you should know for now is that Cedric isn't normally like this. In fact, they're not particularly close. But when she heard he had a fever, Lamaine ran to his room to check if he was okay. Just one look at his wife and Cedric forgot all about the fever. Now he's even blaming her for getting him all riled up. She didn't even do anything. Feeling awkward, she tries to push him away, but he grabs her hand and kisses it, admitting he was wrong. He's never appreciated her like he should have done, but now he suddenly confesses that he's crazy for her. Whether he's crazy for her or just plain crazy is hard to tell, but one thing's for certain, this is not how Lamaine expected things to go. You see, Lamaine wasn't actually born into this world. She came from ours, where she was a small-town doctor with a kind heart, but not a lot of cash. When her gambling drunkard of a father passed away, she was left in a huge amount of debt. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the hospital she worked for closed, and the new one she joined was run by corrupt doctors who only cared about money. Jeez, talk about rotten luck. She stormed out of the doctor's office, only to get hit by a manhwa character's greatest enemy, a bus. Her last thought was that in her next life, she wouldn't live for other people, but for herself. And the next thing she knew, she woke up in a luxurious bedroom with a maid by her side in the body of Lamaine Roger, the villainess from her favorite romance novel. The main plot is between the leads Elena and Killian. Cedric, Lamaine's husband, who we met earlier, is Killian's younger brother. In the original, Cedric is obsessed with Elena, which slowly turns Lamaine mad with jealousy. She even drank poison to get his attention, but when they found out she did it on purpose, she was divorced and exiled from the family. It's a pretty tragic fate, and unfortunately for Lamaine, it's already in full swing. The moment she woke up is only a few hours after she drank the poison. Would somebody give this girl a break already? If I was her, I'd probably just give up and drink the rest of the poison. Maybe third time's the charm, right? But our protagonist isn't ready to give in just yet. She remembers from the original that this maid's name is Jane, and she's absolutely devoted to Lamaine. Maybe if she plays this right, they can cover up this whole poison scandal together. Even if things do differ from the original, she's not exactly landed the best role. No one wants a husband who's obsessed with another woman. While Lamaine is dressed by her maids, Jane tells her that Cedric is on his way to see her. He's already heard the news that she fainted from poison, so it's anyone's guess as to what will happen next. She's prepared for just about anything, other than seeing his face in reality. He's way more handsome than the book described him. She's so shocked that just the sight of him gives her a nosebleed. Yikes, for a villainess, she's not got much of a poker face, huh? She hurriedly wipes the blood away while Cedric remarks that she must not have fully recovered yet. To her shock, he starts saying how upset he was when he heard the news that she had fainted. He lived in agony every day, unable to even put into words how worried he was. Say what now? A little taken aback, Lamaine tries to remember what kind of relationship she and Cedric had in the original before the whole poison scandal. She recalls a particular scene where he told his wife that he could never love her, but swore to protect their image by putting on a good show for everyone who saw them. But this is, well, it's a few steps above your usual performance. He literally looks like he's about to cry. It's awkward to watch, but if she doesn't want to be kicked out of this house, she has to play along. Jane is already pretty convinced by his acting skills, so she asks her maid to step outside for a moment to give them some privacy. The moment the maids are gone, Cedric turns cold again. Wow, get this man an Oscar! Is it just me, or did anyone else think he was being serious for a moment back there? Lamaine decides to cut straight to the point and ask him for a divorce. Of course, it's not that simple to just cut things off between them. They were ordered to marry by the king himself, and Cedric swore an oath. He's not the kind of man to take that lightly. Lamaine doesn't quite remember these details from the story. Maybe they weren't discussed in the book, but she asks her husband to tell the king that she wants to break up, but Cedric kind of just sighs and promises to explain the issue further at breakfast tomorrow. She wakes up the next morning in a foul mood. She remembered the background from the original novel, which takes place in the Martin Kingdom. But Ramane's family were actually from their sworn enemy nation, the Lotor Kingdom. In a war between the two countries, Ramane's father, Earl Calypse, betrayed his own nation and helped the Martin Kingdom to victory. Earl Calypse was given the position of Duke in the Martin Kingdom, but he was still not trusted by many of the nobles. So in order to improve his reputation and quiet any grumblings, they married his daughter Ramane to Cedric Roger. Her family history laid the whole foundation for her marriage. That's why Cedric has never trusted her, because she's literally the daughter of a traitor. I mean, can you blame him? But something is clearly different from the original plot. I mean, he didn't kick her out without any hesitation, so maybe there's some hope for her yet. And if she keeps dressing like the prettiest princess in the land, maybe he'll see reason to be a bit more understanding. At breakfast the next morning, Cedric is back with his devoted husband act, so Ramane does her best to follow along. But their jovial atmosphere is shattered when one of the butlers collapses and starts foaming at the mouth. The maids hurry to move him out of the lord and lady's sight, but Ramane's instinct kicks in. He's showing all the symptoms of a stroke, so she rushes over to conduct a closer examination. She is a doctor after all. She can't just ignore a patient in need of help. She struggles to lift the butler and get him on his side so he doesn't choke. She orders the maids and butlers to clear any potentially dangerous items from the scene and stays by his side even when she accidentally gets hit in the head by the unconscious man. The servants are all worried about her dress getting dirty, but Ramane doesn't care. Of course, she is a noblewoman, but how could one dress be worth more than a human life? She insists that no one make a fuss and heads to her room to get cleaned up since the butler seems stable now. On her way out, she catches Cedric's eye, shocked to see his calm and poised expression. A man literally just had a stroke in front of them and he didn't even bat an eye. Who's the real villain here? Ramane excuses herself, apologizing for her absence. After a quick outfit change and a new hairstyle, which is even more stunning than the last, Jane brings her breakfast in her room. The servants are really surprised at her reaction this morning, particularly since she was poisoned only yesterday. But our girl has handled far worse than this in her years as an ER doctor. She's one tough cookie to crack. In the middle of her meal, the butler who had a stroke, Rodel, asks for permission to see her. Wait, how is he okay already? Of course, she agrees, but when he arrives, he immediately falls to his knees and begs for her forgiveness. Oh, here we go again. He admits that this kind of thing happened once before when he broke Elena's favorite teacup. He even calls it a curse and can't understand what he did to deserve it. Of course, in a world like this with little medical knowledge, he couldn't understand the nature of his condition, but Ramane can. She tells him to sit up and says he did nothing wrong. On a piece of paper, she gives him a list of ingredients to eat and orders him to get at least 8 hours of sleep a day. I'm not exactly sure how a change of diet is going to help a seizure patient, but Ramane seems confident that some basic lifestyle changes can make things easier for him. The biggest thing is getting him out of the kitchen, so she visits her husband again to ask for Rodel to be given a new position. Ideally in the laundry room or library, where there aren't so many sharp and dangerous things for him to avoid. Cedric openly admits that he didn't think she cared about any of their workers. It makes her angry, but honestly, he's probably not wrong. The old Ramane wouldn't have said any of this stuff. To calm herself down, Ramane looks away from his face and ends up staring instead at his chest. Abort, girl! Mission abort! How the heck is anyone supposed to concentrate if they're staring at such gorgeous pecs? Half angry and half aroused, she yells at Cedric that if there's someone she can save, she will always step in to save them. She even says he wouldn't understand something like that. Girl, neither would you. You're not a doctor anymore, remember? Stop blowing your cover. Fortunately, he doesn't question her any further and just agrees to move Rodel to a new department. Ramane leaves, a little flustered, while her husband asks his right-hand man, Roberto, how many people know about the poisoning. So far, it's a few staff, some council members, and Elena and Killian. To Roberto's shock, Cedric decides to drop the matter completely and gives him the responsibility of making sure no one else finds out. No pressure or anything. Trying to contain his surprise, Roberto leaves his master to ponder this sudden change in his wife's personality. Has she always been this way and he just misunderstood her? Or is she secretly planning something? One thing's for sure, he'll be paying a lot more attention to her from now on. Ramane gets back to her room feeling frustrated with herself. Of course a man like Cedric is going to get suspicious if she suddenly does a total 180, but she decides not to dwell on the past. What's important right now is preparing for her future. Thinking about her life post-divorce, she's looking through her closet when she spots a secret door that looks a bit like a safe. It's just big enough for her to crawl inside, and when she does, she finds a huge space, a bit like a personal library. A little concerned, she opens one of the books to find a series of medical journals with notes about herbs for healing, herbs for poisoning, and even inspection of patients with tumors. No way. Was Lamaine also interested in medicine? Maybe their personalities line up more than we thought. She also finds a drawing of a young girl with short hair dedicated to my beloved Lily. Now, what the heck is that all about? Before she can read anymore, she hears Jane knocking at her bedroom door and rushes back through the wardrobe. As if she didn't already have enough to deal with, now her father is on the way to the mansion. Jane helps her with her third outfit change of the day and brushes her hair back out. From the novel, she remembers that Duke Calypso is very affectionate towards his daughter, so she's looking forward to meeting him. Maybe she finally has someone in her corner who can help with the divorce. He's certainly very smiley when he arrives, gushing over her and saying how excited he was to see her. But as soon as the butler leaves, he turns even colder than Cedric. Clearly, he's heard about her relationship going sour, and he is not happy. Is acting a mandatory skill in this kingdom? Seriously, why is everyone so good at pretending? Not only is he mean, but he's hella creepy too, holding her chin and telling her she should at least maintain her reputation. He orders her to answer, but Lamaine is so stunned she can't even speak. He raises his hand, and that's when it hits her. Lamaine had just the same childhood that she did. Just the same abusive, cruel father who beat his daughter. She refuses to go through this a second time, but luckily the door opens before he can land the hit. It's Cedric. It's not clear if we can tell what was about to happen, but the Duke covers up impressively well, reaching to touch his daughter's cheek instead and turning lovey-dovey once more. This guy seriously gives me the creeps. No wonder Lamaine ended up becoming a villain. Cedric and the Duke greet each other, each pretending to be casual and friendly. Cedric denies any rumor that his marriage with Lamaine is under strain, and with a perfectly charming smile, he asks the Duke to give them some warning the next time he visits, so he can better prepare. Calypso assures him that he just wanted some quality time with his daughter, so Cedric starts to leave. No! How can he leave her alone? Did he not see what he was about to just do now? Lamaine is desperate not to be alone with this man again, but she can't think of a way to stop him. Just as she reaches the door, she calls out, "Darling," making her husband break out in a cold sweat. While he's shell-shocked, she suggests they all have tea together since it's been some time since her father last visited. I'm not sure if he gets the message, or maybe he's just still in shock, but he agrees to stay so long as the Duke doesn't mind. Which he doesn't, but he was planning to head out anyway. I guess knowing that Cedric would be around, he got spooked. What a coward. Lamaine does her best at acting like the besotted daughter who already misses her father. They warmly bid the Duke goodbye, though he shoots her a dark look before leaving for good. She is just wondering why Ramaine's past was never mentioned in the original novel when her husband steps alarmingly close to her. They finally sit down to have a proper conversation about their divorce. Having heard from the Duke, it's even harder to consider separating when rumors are spreading about the state of their marriage. The fact that he came right away means they must be pretty bad already. Add to the fact that it's the king's order and it's bad enough, but apparently there's more. It turns out Cedric was promised that he could inherit his father's dukedom so long as he married Lamaine. Wow, so literally everyone is benefiting from this situation except her? It's so unfair! Somehow, she keeps her cool while her husband tells her he won't accept the divorce. Instead, they need to fix their relationship, just enough that the both of them can stand it. He's realized now that she was acting so ridiculous all this time because she secretly wanted to be kicked out. If that's true, it's news to her, but maybe it makes sense. I'm really starting to think Lamaine is the most misunderstood character here. But now, she knows she can't stand on her own 2 feet without him. She certainly can't rely on her dad anyway, so she agrees to stay in this marriage until Cedric is officially given the position of Duke Roger. To her surprise, he also promises to be a better husband. Lamaine doesn't care about that so much as she cares about her own survival, so she also makes him promise to give her 1 million gold as compensation when they part ways. She forces him to write a contract, which includes all these conditions as well as acting their best to look like a happy couple in public. Satisfied, Lamaine turns to her room, wondering how much she can buy with 1 million gold. She gets a little paper cut from the contract, but when she arrives, Jane isn't there to help bandage it. Instead, there's a mysterious bunch of purple flowers on her table. Jane returns soon after, giving Lamaine enough time to hide the contract. The flowers came from Rodell, apparently, thanking her for the incident that morning. Has it really only been 1 day? How is she not exhausted by now? The flowers are a nice touch and remind her of her past life where poor patients would give her a bouquet as a thank you for her service. It's sweet, but personally, I would have preferred the payment. She sends Jane out to get some rest, surprised to find that when she looks down, her finger has stopped bleeding. What's that all about? That night, Cedric steps out into the grounds to meet with a hella suspicious figure named Sylvia, who has clearly been doing some work for him. Sylvia has also been spying on his wife, which is kinda gross. If he wants to know what she's up to, why doesn't he just go and ask? It doesn't matter anyway, since she's just been reading all evening. Still, he can't help but be suspicious. Can't figure out what she's planning. 1 week later, Ramane's having tea in the garden like a classic noblewoman. But yes, just like you've always suspected, is boring as heck. She's had no social events for a week since they're repairing the bridge into the estate. Luckily, it's finished today, just in time for the return of the Duke and Duchess, the original heroine and hero of this story. It makes her a little nervous to imagine meeting them. If Cedric has such a bad impression of her as a husband, I can only imagine how badly Elena and Killian must think of her. In the book, Elena always tried to be her friend, but Killian didn't really like her. If she can get Elena on her side, maybe that will make her life here easier. Of course, we still don't really know much about her character, and the novel hasn't exactly been a reliable source so far. Think of how Duke Calypso turned out. On her way back inside, she runs into an aged gardener with a skin condition and becomes determined to find a way to help him. That's our Ramane. Her heart is too big for her own good. While Ramane has been bored out of her mind the last week, her husband has been staying true to his promise and paying her a lot more attention. Mainly, he's been using the servants to spy on her, but he also intends to keep up appearances in public. When his brother and Elena return, he wants to welcome them together with Ramane, putting on an outfit that is straight out of The Greatest Showman. He heads straight to her room. They haven't been able to see each other much since his training with the knights has kept him busy. The door is ajar when he arrives, so he peeks in and finds her sitting on the floor with a pile of umbrellas. Girl, what? What could she possibly have been using all those for? She awkwardly calls him darling again and clearly didn't realize it was time to go already. Jane rushes in and scolds her for making a mess, asking Cedric to wait outside while they get her a little more presentable. Jeez, those two really need to work on their chemistry if they're going to fool anyone. A few minutes later, Ramane has rejoined them in the hallway in a matching scarlet outfit. She tries to explain the earlier incident, saying she couldn't decide on one that she liked. Maybe she really is just that picky, but Cedric knows better than to be so easily fooled. Earlier in their relationship, before the poisoning, they met to discuss a rumor that surfaced, one that claimed she was dating someone else. Being his usual cold and unemotional self, Cedric didn't care if she wasn't loyal to him, but he did ask her to at least uphold the dignity of his family by not making it so obvious. Like any girl would, Ramane took offense to that and pointed out that he doesn't treat her like a lady of the house, so why should she act like one? She also tried to get more money out of him, saying she spent all her allowance on dresses. Which isn't very believable. She'd have to have bought a whole dress shop in 1 week. She also made a big deal about Elena and encouraged her husband to find a way to get rid of her. Back then, it seemed like she really wanted him to kick her out. But after she woke up from the poison, everything changed. Now she's calling him darling and playing with umbrellas on her bedroom floor. Who is this woman? He subtly tells her that he'll keep her poisoning a secret, while Ramane jokes that he should really be more concerned about who did it, as if they both don't know she herself is the culprit. Is this flirting? Are these two finally finding some chemistry? I sure hope so, because it's time to put on their best performance yet in front of Duke and Duchess Roger. He greets his parents first, and right behind them are the true protagonists, Elena and Killian. She is all smiles and warmth with him. Meanwhile, there's a bit of tension between the brothers, which only makes sense. If two brothers fall in love with the same girl, things are bound to get awkward. As soon as Elena is on the scene, Cedric seems to forget all about the wife he said he'd devote himself to. She's like the world's most obvious fourth wheel. Then the Duchess turns the conversation to ask about her collapse, and Cedric assures her it was nothing serious. Elena in particular seems concerned, which is Cedric's cue to start acting like a loved-up husband again. The real protagonist seems intrigued by their closeness and suggests all four of them have some tea and catch up. Looks like it's time to really turn up the affection. The Duke and Duchess head inside to rest, and just a few short minutes later, Ramane and Cedric somehow end up on top of each other. How the heck did that happen? Just a few minutes earlier, Alina had suggested that Ramane didn't have to join them for tea if she didn't want to. Which is kind of a sneaky move, if you ask me. She just wants both the brothers for herself. Surprisingly, Cedric stands up for Ramane and says she's more than well enough to attend. Which is true, but no one wants to sit there in silence while three good friends catch up and ignore you. So she excuses herself to head inside. Just as she's turning, her shoe catches on the inside of her dress. Instinctively, she reaches out and grabs a fistful of Cedric's shirt, pulling him to the ground with her. Now, how she ended up on top of him and not the other way around is another matter entirely. You certainly won't hear me complaining. Ramane awkwardly gets off him, but Cedric sees an opportunity. Instead of brushing her off, he acts like she's still weak from the poison and ditches his brother and true love to take care of her. Okay, you have to give him credit. That's pretty smooth. On their walk back, Ramane insists it really was an accident and tells him to go back if he wants to. But he can't. They signed a contract, remember? I guess he's not exactly happy to be leaving Alina with his brother, but at least we know his priority is their contract. It's kind of sad when you think about it. He wants to be divorced this badly, but he still won't actually give his marriage a try? Poor Ramane. Later on, Alina still seems concerned about her condition, though Killian assures her not to think about it. He clearly is still suspicious of his brother's wife, and reminds Alina that she might have poisoned herself on purpose. She knows that too, but she still thinks Cedric could have been kinder to her. Maybe then she wouldn't have acted out so much. Killian disagrees. Maybe it's the glasses, but he is very observant and noticed something change between the two of them while they were away. Always ready to stick her nose in other people's business, Alina is determined to find out if there's really more than meets the eye. The next morning, the trio leave the estate together, giving Ramane a chance to finally take a walk in town with Jane. But she doesn't want to spend the afternoon in a cafe somewhere. Our girl has plans. Their first stop is to the bank. After all, if her wealth is all tied to her father or her husband, she's not exactly in safe hands. Unfortunately, the old Ramane wasn't the best at saving money, so it looks like she's going to have to be frugal. But seriously, where did her allowance all go? She doesn't have that many dresses or jewelry. Was she spending it on medical books or something? After the bank, the girls take a walk together where Jane refuses to share her umbrella since she's a maid. But Ramane doesn't care about all that, and besides, the weather is scorching. She doesn't want Jane's pretty little face to get burned. Feeling particularly affectionate towards her maid, she suddenly pulls her inside a jewelry store, determined to buy her something. Aw, is it just me or is anyone else rooting for these two over her and Cedric? I want Jane and Ramane to buy a little cottage together and just be girlies for the rest of their lives. And besides, Jane really does deserve a little treat. She's always been so dedicated to her mistress and never complains, no matter how hard the work gets. She chooses a pretty butterfly brooch for her, telling her to wear it on important occasions. Oh, look at her cute little face! That's it. I'm officially Team Jane. Who cares about Cedric? The real girl-mance is right here. Their next stop is to buy an umbrella. So much for saving money, I guess. She keeps insisting that she needs a lighter umbrella, though I've no idea what for. This must be another one of her schemes. She buys 3 of the latest models, as well as some extra accessories. By the time they leave the boutique, Jane is almost buried in boxes. She expects Ramane to go and visit the perfume workshop next, which apparently she always attends alone. That makes her a little suspicious. Maybe this is where the Villainess has been spending all her money. A worker named Luther greets her as soon as she steps inside, noting that she's a little late this week. Now this guy is definitely in on whatever she's been up to. Have you ever seen a character look so shifty? She tries to greet him casually, though as we already know, our girl isn't the best actress. He leads her to a basement room filled with different vials and shows her a small collection that apparently she ordered. Now, I don't know much about alchemy, but that doesn't look like perfume. For one thing, why are they all bright red? Luther goes on to explain that these perfumes have various effects, like relieving pain and helping you sleep. Which doesn't sound that sus, but apparently, these kind of things are very hard to get a hold of in the Martin Kingdom. Not to mention, they're expensive as heck. So why was Ramane spending so much on medicines like these? And who is the owner who procured them for her? Her curiosity piqued, Ramane demands a list of all the medications she's purchased, all of which amount to nearly 5,000 gold. But if she's been buying that much medicine, where is it? Her secret room only had books, not vials. Either way, this has presented her an opportunity to help the gardener with the skin rash. She asks for a medicine to cure rashes and offers to pay him over the asking price for everything she ordered. In return, she wants the name of Luther's boss, the person who's been procuring these illegal items for her. Luther is very hesitant to tell her, but Lamaine drives a hard bargain, and soon he gives in. The man in question is Duke Ben's Haribo. Don't laugh at the name. I have a feeling this man is going to be very important later on. The name definitely appeared in the novel, but she can't remember much about him. So Lamaine heads home with her insane amount of shopping bags and asks to take dinner in her room that evening, instructing Jane not to let anyone come in for the rest of the day. She's about to open her lovely purchases, but can't shake the feeling she's forgotten something. Well, that's because she has. Though Killian, Elena, and Cedric went out earlier without her, all four of them were invited to an event held by Count Karen. Earlier that morning, Cedric asked his wife to attend, but she wanted to go to town instead and promised to wait for his return at home to keep up appearances. Now they've returned home, but his dutiful wife is nowhere to be seen. Killian kind of makes fun of him, which really touches a nerve with his brother. Though they've never really spoken about his marital problems, there have been several events that he's attended without her, which is why rumblings started about his relationship failing. I think we all know Cedric's character enough to know that he wouldn't cope with humiliation well. As soon as his brother makes a comment, he comes out with another Oscar-worthy line about never showing his true feelings for Lamaine and assures them she was keen to meet him earlier today. Though it doesn't seem to have fooled the protagonists, Roberto appears to update him on his wife's condition, after which he hurries off, leaving Elena a little miffed. Is it just me, or do we think she kind of has feelings for him too? I mean, I can kind of understand. Cedric was at one point the most eligible bachelor in the kingdom, a captain of the first-class Imperial Knights, a war hero, and a handsome noble beloved by all. Who wouldn't fall for him? Well, Lamaine, apparently, since she broke her promise and shut herself up in her room instead of greeting him. Poor Cedric can't tell if she just forgot or if the old Lamaine is back and trying to make a fool of him again. I know he's not exactly been the best husband, but I do kind of feel bad for the guy. The next day, Jane informs him that her mistress is ill. And the next day, and the next day too. Cedric just thinks she's avoiding him, which puts him in a pretty bad mood. He goes extra hard on his knights in training, which seems a little stupid. If he doesn't want rumors to spread, why is he acting like a walking storm cloud? Come on, Cedric, let's put those acting skills to use. He seems especially perplexed about this recent disappearance. After all, Lamaine was usually pretty cooperative when there's money on the line. While he is stuck trying to figure out her motivations, he stumbles upon the lady herself in the gardens, trying to attach a mini parasol to the gardener's head. Oh, now it all makes sense. That's why she was looking for lightweight umbrellas. She was trying to make sun protectors. They look kind of silly, but the gardener is just happy she made an effort for his sake. She also brought medicine, but Cedric butts in just as she's giving it to him. Based on the look on his face, Lamaine knows better than to argue and follows obediently when he says he wants to talk. Once they're alone, he grabs her by the shoulders and demands she tell him what this is all about. Oh, Cedric, is it really so hard to imagine your wife might actually be a good person? You see, this is why I like Jane better. Let's be honest, he's mainly just upset that she broke her promise and has spent the last few days avoiding him. The truth, of course, is she totally forgot and has been busy trialing her sun-protecting hats to keep the gardener's rash from worsening. While she was working, she couldn't help but think about how sloppy the housekeeping has been in the Roger family. Normally, it would be the Duchess in charge of the health of her servants, but between Rodell and the gardeners, it seems like she's become clumsy, which may suggest that she's passed the role on to Elena for practice. It would be surprising, but not impossible. After all, she's very close to the Roger family. You see, Elena was born to the Gerald family and spent a happy few years during her childhood before her father, Duke Gerald, was killed at war. Her mother died from the shock and heartbreak, leaving Elena all alone at just 10 years old. Her relatives took advantage of her and she lost everything. The only people to show her kindness were Duke and Duchess Roger, friends of her father who took her under their wing and raised her as their own. That's how she ended up getting so close with Killian and why she might be the closest in line to become the next Duchess. Determined to follow the contract and help her husband become the Duke, she wanted to help the mansion staff and be of some use to him. Of course, in doing that, she totally forgot about her promise. She decides to come clean about what she was up to and spins it so that it seems like she did it for his sake to prove that she had the qualities of a duchess. Nice one, Ramane. He can't exactly get mad at that. Can he? Her little trick works and Cedric forgives her. Though apparently they have some other engagement tonight, which she has also totally forgotten about. Someone get this girl a memo pad or something. Jane fills her in, reminding her that once a month the married couple share a bedroom for the sake of appearances. Though, according to the novel, they never did anything and kind of resented the obligation. Even though it's futile, sweet Jane is doing her best to get her pretty and prepped in case there are some fireworks this evening. Meanwhile, the Duchess and Elena are taking a walk through the gardens together. Elena somehow finds a way to work Ramane into the conversation, playing the victim and acting like she's been difficult to get close to. Which is probably true, but it's obvious she's just saying this to gain some sympathy. At just the right moment, they come across the gardener wearing Ramane's hat. He does some great damage control on her reputation, even making the Duchess smile. Phew, that was perfect timing. A little later, the awkward moment has arrived. Cedric is sitting there, ready to be painted like a French girl with his chest exposed and a glass of wine in hand. Is it just me, or does anyone else think he's kind of into this? His wife, on the other hand, is absolutely not. She even brought a book to read in case she got bored. Honestly, is there any hope for these guys? He tells her just to relax, so she decides to have a glass, and another, and another. It's not long before the two of them are kinda lightheaded. And Ramane pops out the question we've all been thinking. Does he regret their marriage? Wow, it only took 3 glasses of wine and suddenly they're opening up? This could get more interesting than we thought, guys. Cedric seems reluctant to answer, which is basically the same as saying yes. Ramane gets upset, pounding on his very attractive chest and telling him to be more honest with his feelings. All this talk about regret and suffering is finally making him realize how hard things must have been for his wife all this time. I mean, she literally moved from another country, was forced into this marriage just like he was, and everyone thinks of her as a traitor's daughter. Wow, it really took him this long to find a little empathy? He asks her if she regrets their marriage, but Ramane is already too drunk to answer. The only thing she regrets is not having enough money to fulfill her promises. Cedric doesn't know it, but she's talking about her past life and all the patients she left behind. He's still trying to figure out what the heck she's saying when she suddenly asks him to move a little closer and takes his chin in her hands. Oh my god, is she really about to kiss him? It looks like drunk Ramane is bold as heck, but she passes out before she can seal the deal, leaving her husband to put her to bed. He's still half nude when she wakes up the next morning and hands her a glass of water. Seriously, am I the only one bothered by this robe thing? If you're not going to tie it properly, then just take it off. After that, she promises only to drink with her husband in future, and later, the two of them get an invite to the birthday party of Duke Haribo's daughter, Lady Lucia. The same Haribo who's been procuring the illegal medicines for her. Apparently, Lucia has long suffered from the same disease that killed her mother, so the Duke gave up his duties and spends all his time taking care of her. That must be why he's so interested in medicines. Killian and Elena can't attend, so Ramane and Cedric are set to go instead, and Ramane promises to deliver Elena's gift to Lucia on her behalf. It soon becomes clear that Cedric doesn't like Duke Haribo, and he even warns his wife to stay away from him at the party. It's the first time they'll be attending a formal party together, so he's also worried about keeping up appearances. In the days leading up to the Haribo party, Cedric's mood becomes increasingly sour. Not just because of the party, he also keeps having dramatic experiences with his wife. Like the other day, when the usual gang were taking a boat on the river together. Ramane, as usual, didn't want to interrupt 3 friends from talking freely amongst themselves, so she tried to get off at the next dock, but her foot slipped on the edge of the boat and instead she went tumbling into the water. Immediately, everyone started to panic. You have to remember that dresses from this time period are crazy heavy. It's like having a ball and chain tied to your waist. Ramane couldn't swim at all, so Cedric jumped in and pulled them both to the surface. That's the spirit! Finally, he's starting to act like a real male lead. It seems like Ramane is starting to trust him more as a result. After nearly drowning, she was obviously frightened and clung to her husband for support. Just one innocent, vulnerable look from Lamaine threw Cedric off for a week. And the more he talks to her, the worse it gets. Roberto has been noticing that the young Duke is totally unable to concentrate after any kind of interaction with the lady. The only thing he can do to get his mind off her is head to the training ground and vent his frustrations with some good old swordsmanship practice. See, guys? That's how you know a man's down bad. And can you really blame him? After that drunken night where she was practically seconds away from kissing him, he's been a total wreck. Their relationship is purely contractual, so up until now, he never thought she had saw him like that. But now, he's just not sure. After a week or so of swinging his sword and acting grumpy, the day of the Haribo party finally arrives. As promised, Cedric and Lamaine attend together, looking every bit the fairy tale couple they're pretending to be. The Haribo family make their business selling flowers, so the grounds of the estate are absolutely gorgeous when they arrive. Of course, we already know they're not just for show. Behind those blooming bushes, there are also illegal medicinal herbs being funneled into the capital. Cedric and Lamaine are announced as they enter a room that is both a greenhouse and a ballroom all at once. From the moment they step inside, the other guests whisper from behind and give them hella side-eye. Because apparently, rich people have nothing better to do than gossip. Lamaine is a little thrown off, but her husband is used to it by now. He assures her that the Duke will appear soon with his daughter, and then the festivities will be well underway. Curious, she asks what disease Lady Lucia is suffering from. It's said that her condition isn't visible, but causes her to faint suddenly from time to time. It's been that way ever since she was a child, so every birthday is like the Duke's way of celebrating that she's still alive. It's kinda dark if you think about it. Our resident doctor can't help but consider diagnosis, wondering what might be the cause of Lucia's sickness. Either way, it's not really any of her business. All they're going to do is show their face, give Aileen his gift, and go home. Still, they should put on a good show, right? Even though it was written in their contract, Cedric seems flustered when his wife starts laying on the charm. He manages to play along until they're interrupted by a mysterious woman with green hair who asks to speak to Lamaine alone for a moment. Could this lady know something about her interest in illegal drugs? Cedric recognizes her at once and introduces this stranger as Lady Artemisia Lasky. Which is a funny coincidence since Artemisia is the name of an herb that perfectly matches the color of her hair. She insists that the other noble ladies are keen to meet Lamaine since it's her first time at a high society event like this in the Martin Kingdom. Something about the look in her eye makes Lamaine a little nervous, but it would be rude to refuse a direct invitation like this. Cedric gives his permission, so she obediently follows Artemisia to a drawing room where several other ladies are waiting. They seem a little disappointed that she's here instead of Aelina, and immediately start making sly comments about her reputation as a vain and luxurious woman. Artemisia doesn't help much either, backhandedly suggesting that Lamaine's behavior is a result of her culture, and they should try to respect it. Yeah, right! This is grade A mean girl behavior! They only brought her here to tear her down! The games really get started when they ask about Cedric, saying how surprised they were to hear the couple would be attending this party together for once. Lamaine does her best to stay calm, answering simply that they get along very well. Uh-oh, I think Girlie needs some media training stat! The girls really sink their claws in deep. Somehow, Artemisia even found out about the poisoning incident, which really throws Lamaine off guard. What did I tell you guys? She has zero poker face! It reminds her of her past life where her colleagues would always look down on her and excluded her from social events and all the career opportunities that come with them. Once she sees the parallels, Lamaine realizes that the girls are completely ganging up on her. But she's not that helpless doctor from her past life anymore. She's married to a powerful man and came from a good enough family herself. She's not going to let anyone look down on her. Not again. Lamaine first claps back by saying that her collapse was because of exhaustion and not poison. The girls strike again by suggesting that her husband doesn't like her being at social events in case she starts flirting with other men. Wow, don't they have any shame? But it works out in the end, giving her the perfect angle to twist their words and make it seem like Cedric was too jealous to let her out in public in case other men look at her too long. That's it, bestie. The mean girls are so flustered they literally go speechless for a minute. She even subtly warns them that if her husband found out about them looking down upon her like this, he would burst into a fit of rage. Perfect. Now she's clapped back and given them a warning for next time. Cedric, who is watching from afar, doesn't have a clue what's happening with the girls, but he can tell his wife is holding her own. Edward Wingate, the leader of the Imperial security team, catches his attention straying and asks him what's wrong. Cedric assures him it's nothing, and some pesky little Viscount makes a comment about how he must be uncomfortable at Duke Haribo's residence, since he's known to have disliked him ever since they were in the academy together. Seriously, do people write this stuff down beforehand? What happened to having a normal conversation? Can't they just talk about the weather or something? Luckily, Cedric has a real talent for giving death stares. After one look from him, the Viscount shuts his mouth. Of course, he wasn't totally wrong. As two talented students from important families, Benz Haribo and Cedric Rogers were always destined to be rivals. They managed to avoid too much tension for most of their training, but when they chose the same topic for their thesis, things really got heated. Originally, Ben said he would change his topic, but kept writing the same thesis, hoping to prove that his content was objectively better than Cedric's. Yikes, competitive much? They tried to talk it out after meeting the teacher, and Benz tore him to shreds, saying he had no goals and didn't even deserve to be his rival. Cedric's pride couldn't stand that, so he lashed out and tackled Benz, forcing him to the ground. In the end, Cedric was punished, and the boys' relationship was broken beyond repair. Ever since, they've hated each other. It's a common fact that Cedric avoids him whenever possible, which is partly why his arrival today has stirred up so much interest. When Duke Haribo makes his appearance at last, the very first person he approaches is Lamaine, almost like he's trying to get on Cedric's nerves. He hands her a handkerchief that she dropped earlier, but this time, there's something inside. A folded note asks her to meet him on the balcony, which comes as a surprise. As far as we know, Lamaine and Benz didn't interact much in the original, so why was he suddenly taking an interest? Is this all just an elaborate ploy to get under his rival's skin? If it is, it's definitely working. While Cedric is panicking, trying to find his wife, she sneaks onto the balcony to find her host waiting with a glass of wine, looking like the great Gatsby himself. He's very pleased that she actually came, and kind of amused that she looks so nervous. But this isn't about any kind of funny business. It turns out Luther conveyed their conversation straight to the Duke, so he decided to meet her in person like she wanted. Well, that was easy. I thought she was going to have to come up with some excuse, but in the end, he came straight to her. Unfortunately, they're already getting a few suspicious looks through the window, so maybe this would be better discussed in private on another occasion. Benz does a good job at keeping up his jovial act and promises to get in touch again another time. Lamaine is just stepping out when she bumps into the one man she didn't want to see, her husband. He assumes this is all about him, so Benz corrects him and says he only wanted to talk to Lamaine. Cedric is clearly mad, but he won't get into a fight in public and promises they can talk more when they get home. Yeah, I can already tell that's not gonna go well. Fortunately for her, the attention of the entire party is taken when Lady Lucia comes downstairs alongside her father, the previous Duke Haribo. After their appearance, the real party begins, with music and dancing at last. Lamaine expects her husband to push her towards the door, but after all the gossip they've endured, he's even more determined to show that they're a perfect couple on and off the dance floor. His wife hasn't had one lesson in ballroom dancing, but he's good at taking the lead and seems to have let go of his anger from just a moment ago. Maybe because he's actually starting to get feelings for her and actually enjoys her company? Come on, it's what we're all thinking. Even Lamaine can see it. Something has changed in the way he looks at her. Or maybe that blush is just because she's stepping on his feet so much? In the middle of the dance, Lucia suddenly collapses, her breath coming in short gasps as she falls into her brother's arms. She's not totally passed out and can still speak, but she's clearly in pain and struggling to breathe. You already know what's going to happen, don't you? Dr. Lamaine comes to the rescue once again, looking for something she could use instead of a paper bag to slow her breathing. She grabs a gift box and orders Benz to get out of the way, which is pretty bold if you think about it. He's holding her in a position that's making it even harder for her to breathe. But why the heck should he trust some random lady ripping apart his sister's birthday presents? Beats me, but for some reason, he does. He turns Lucia to face Lamaine, who encourages her to breathe slow and deep through the wrapping paper bag she just made. The guests watch with bated breath as the young girl slowly returns to normal. It's clear that she was hyperventilating just now, but what caused it is impossible to tell just by looking at her. Ramane suggests she return to her room and remove her corset, which, like, yeah, if she has an issue with fainting, then why the heck was she wearing one in the first place? These people know absolutely nothing about the human body. Ramane feels a little awkward when she stands up to find half the party staring at her, but Cedric and Benz are quick to give her credit for Lucia's speedy recovery. Although Cedric isn't happy about his arch nemesis and his wife having another reason to get close, he can't exactly blame her for helping a sickly little girl. Benz heads off with his sister, leaving the nobles to gossip once again about Ramane. At least this time it's because they're impressed. Finally, Cedric suggests they head home, and while in the carriage, he asks how she has such good medical knowledge. Although she has good intentions, he's worried for her and asks her not to act so rashly in future. As you can imagine, Ramane doesn't take that well. I don't think any of us would. But she has less experience in this world than he does. If she continues to rush over and help people in such a public setting, then her reputation would plummet if something went wrong. He doesn't want her to get into trouble, which is actually quite adorable. She even gets him to admit it, and is so shocked by his sincerity that she promises not to be so reckless next time. Oh, great. Now we've moved from cold and awkward to just plain awkward. Will one of these idiots make a move already? As if fate herself was listening, the next second the carriage rolls over a dip in the road and the couple are thrown on top of each other. Not the first time they've been in this situation. Things turn a little more serious when they realize the driver got hurt. That's Ramane's cue, and since there's no one out here to judge, she can actually help without having to worry about her reputation. She leaves Cedric in the carriage like a lost little puppy while she steps out to treat the driver's head wound. Fortunately, the wound looks messy but isn't that serious, and there seems to be no permanent damage to the driver's brain, but he just won't stop bleeding. She tells him to start counting to 300 while she presses down with force, trying to stem the blood flow. I'm not sure that technique is medically approved. Before she gets a chance to apply it, a strange bolt of heat flickers from her hand, making her jump backwards in shock. The next second, it's gone, but she still remembers that strange sensation, like fire forming in her palm. With the application of pressure, the bleeding eventually comes to a stop. The carriage is too broken to use, so they decide to ride the horses back to the manor. Cedric helps her onto a horse, but since it's her first time riding, she's a little nervous. So he jumps on behind her to calm her nerves, and then kicks the horse into full speed, reversing everything he just did. Sometimes I think this guy is hopeless. Despite the adrenaline, Ramane ends up falling asleep on the long ride back to the estate. Her husband doesn't want to wake her, so he carries her bridal style through the gates, which is incredible timing since Elena is there to watch them arrive. I hope this helps her get it through her pretty little head that a man is married, so back off. She sees the blood on her dress and freaks out, but Cedric explains it wasn't hers. Elena insists on getting an explanation, so he tells her about what happened with the carriage and how Ramane treated the driver's head wound. He bids her goodbye to take his wife inside because, the man is strong, but he's literally carrying a grown woman. Somehow, Elena finds a way to take offense to that and starts stressing about how he's been so cold to her lately. Uh-oh. Does anyone else get the feeling she's gonna blow up at some point? Later that night, Ramane wakes up in bed, not totally sure how she got there or why she's in different clothes. She's just about to panic when Jane bursts into the room, saving her the embarrassment of wondering if her husband saw her naked. She tucks her mistress into bed and bids her goodnight, leaving Ramane to wonder about all the ill and ailing people she's come across lately. She remembers that strange feeling when she was treating the driver and can't help but wonder if it has something to do with whatever the original Villainess was doing before she was reincarnated. She doesn't think too much about it and falls asleep peacefully. Meanwhile, Cedric just got word that the carriage driver was found to have no wounds. Other than the blood, there was no sign that he was even injured in the first place. No way. Are you telling me people can have superpowers in this universe? Or is this just exclusive to Ramane? Was it even her who healed him? Oh my gosh, my head is spinning! Cedric asks the doctor to keep his mouth shut, and then orders Roberto to personally deliver an urgent letter to someone mysterious. Despite the stormy look on his face, he's almost back to normal the next morning at breakfast, where he and Elena seem as close as ever. It's starting to bother Ramane that he might still have one-sided feelings for her, because she still hasn't noticed that he's started to pay more attention to her. I'm telling you, the both of them are hopeless. Duchess Roger heard about what happened at the party yesterday, and informs Ramane that she's been invited to Lady Lucia's tea party as a thank you. The Duchess seems particularly pleased with her actions, and even says she's proud to call her family. Wow, that's one heck of an L for Elena. The real protagonist manages to cover her disappointment and asks if her present got delivered in the end. Because of her fainting, she couldn't open them one by one, but Ramane promises to ask about it at the tea party. The next day, she takes a trip with Jane, a little nervous to be going to another social event. Jane is carrying the brooch from her mistress in her pocket, and when the lady points it out, she starts gushing about how happy she was to receive it. Like a knight being bestowed a sword for their service. Stop it! She's actually too cute! Ramane is so taken by her that she even offers to call Jane her personal knight in private! Yes! Team Jane Ramane is back on, people! At the Knights training grounds, we discover that the urgent letter was sent to Edward Wingate, the captain of the Royal Guard. He asked them to look into any instances of wounds becoming magically healed, and surprisingly, there's a known case from several decades ago. The incident involves the Myers family, who were wiped from society after being sentenced to death by the king. They were known to have healing powers and frequently used them to help the sick and poor. But they were also incredibly powerful on the battlefield, and it became a power struggle between kingdoms to have as many descendants of the Myers as possible to aid them in battle. So, in the end, the nobles decided they were too powerful, and the king was forced to order their execution due to pressure from other countries. But how do you kill someone who can heal themselves, you ask? It turns out they had one crucial weakness: water. Since they can come back to life, the solution they thought of was to drown the whole clan. That is just so brutal! Cedric then shares that the security brigade received a secret order to report immediately if they find anyone with healing powers, which suggests that the Imperial family suspects they are still Myers alive somewhere. Edward thinks this is fantastic news because he is confident that Cedric will be rewarded with the title of Duke if he ever finds one. But our guy seems troubled. Did he connect the dots already? Returning to our girl, she is now in the sitting room, which is decorated with several flowers, and she happens to be staring at a talking one, Ben's Haribo. The truth is that he wrote the invitation in his sister's name since he knows Cedric will be against it if it comes straight from him. I expected he'd make a move on a married lady, but it appears he merely wants to discuss business with her, prompting Ramane to bluntly state that his medicine is too expensive, causing this guy to chuckle. Not gonna lie, he does look cute. He then decides to explain to Ramane that Martin Kingdom relied on the Myers family's healing powers, which is why the kingdom did not feel the need to produce medicines, but they were all eventually slaughtered by the Imperial family. This makes no sense to our girl because it would have been a major loss for the country, prompting Benz to scowl as he discloses that these insane people believe that only God can decide who lives and dies. So, who gave them the authority to kill people? Such hypocrites! So Benz mentioned that he can't lower the prices because buying the herbs from outside their kingdom is quite expensive. This led Ramane to suggest that they could produce the medicine themselves and share it with everyone. But since this conversation is taking up a lot of her precious time, she decides to ask about Lucia's illness. She discovers that the little one frequently experiences breathing difficulties when around others, leading her to suspect a potential psychological issue. They then check Lucia's room, which she describes as the worst room. She tells the Duke to remove the flowers because their pollen and seeds are harmful to one's health, and she also suggests that they retain only a few dolls in the room. These dolls are creepy as heck. I recommend we get rid of them all. They're bad for our mental health. She also suggests that instead of flowers, plants that increase humidity are preferable, which makes Benz laugh again because if it were a different noble, her rudeness would not be brushed aside. But this side of her piques his interest, so he decides to follow her advice before smilingly requesting that they take their relationship to the next level. You mean friends? Business partners, sir? His smile and holding her hand cause Ramane to immediately refuse and shout that she already has a husband. But, phew, he clarifies that he simply wants to be her business partner. He starts laughing and asks her to prepare a proposal the next time they meet, as our girl blushes and leaves. When she arrives home, she's surprised to find Elena as the first to greet her and invite her for tea. This innocent-looking Elena excitedly grabs her hand, making Ramane wonder if this change of heart is because she no longer acts so evil. A smile then spreads across her face, because having Elena as a friend isn't a bad idea at all. Or so she thought. When they got to the garden, the rude ladies from Lucia's birthday were already there, making her very uncomfortable. Still, Ramane chooses to play along and sit with them, but the ladies begin discussing about the parasol hats she made and how she assisted Lady Lucia before smirkingly commenting that her possessing this kind of knowledge may lead to a misunderstanding, considering that she does come from a trader family. Ramane is so taken aback that her body freezes, so Elena decides to chime in and encourage the ladies not to jump to conclusions before smilingly inviting them for a stroll where she has planted new flowers. Ramane takes a deep breath and recalls that before she left the Haribo estate, Benz felt relieved when she stated the gift that she gave to Lucia was something someone recommended she buy. But the truth is that it is Elena's gift. The gift was actually a perfume from their competitor, which surprised Ramane because it would undoubtedly make her seem awful to the Haribo family, prompting Benz to say that she should not trust whoever recommended the gift to her. So she was warned, yet she thought that they could be friends? The girl was not listening. The ladies start raving about the flower garden as soon as they arrive, but our girl gets sick to her stomach and passes out. All the while, Elena smiles creepily. I knew my witch radar was accurate. Trash spotted. The Duchess, Cedric, Killian, and actress Elena are now discussing what happened. And this malicious girl is crying as she describes how Ramane expressed disgust earlier and now believes our girl despises her. Can I hit her so she actually cries? Killian even backs her up and is outraged that Ramane is hurting Elena, so he expects the Duchess to step in, but sorry not sorry, you nasty couple. The Duchess is just there beaming so big, believing Ramane is simply pregnant. Speaking of our girl, Ramane is currently having a nightmare in which she appears to be on a battlefield and a knight begs her to help him. She looks terrified and claims she can't do it, prompting a man in full armor to lift his sword at her, forcing her to wake up screaming. Cedric then enters her room with servants carrying lavish gifts, and when he reveals that the Duchess believes she's pregnant, our girl's jaw drops in disbelief. He's already sweating as he says that he can't bring himself to deny it, but he declares to explain it to his mother later, while Ramane wonders how in the novel world the Duchess came to such a conclusion. Meanwhile, Cedric has taken Elena to her room to assist her in selecting a dress, but he appears bored, so she approaches him and remarks that his acting today was a little excessive. As she creepily brushes his hair, she threatens that if he wants to keep his person a secret from everyone, he must continue to cooperate with her. Oh, so Killian is being threatened? And who is his person? Wait, is he gay? As Cedric leaves her room, he can't help but blush, thinking about how adorable Ramane's reaction was earlier. This guy sure knows how to smile, doesn't he? Killian unexpectedly confronts him in the corridor, pushing him against the wall and stating that because they aren't close, he knows Ramane isn't pregnant. She is lavish, rumored to mess around with men, suddenly doing things on their estate and now pretending to faint. So he yells that Cedric should not put up with a lady like her, but our gentleman merely reminds Killian that he's talking about his wife. Killian is desperate as he tells him that Elena is their family. It was raining when their parents brought home the little Elena, but their relationship didn't start well because the small girl hid herself in her room. They were really concerned, especially Killian, who grinned and said that they should reassure Elena that they would be her brothers from now on. How did things get to this point in this sibling dynamic? However, while Cedric considers Elena to be part of his family, so does his wife. He can't ignore Killian's comment about Ramane interfering on their estate, so he tells him that neither he nor Elena have the authority either, given that Killian does not yet hold the title of Duke, making Killian look humiliated. Back to our girl, she has another dream about little Ramane, but this time her father refers to her as Zelda. He orders her to heal an ailing fox or she will die like her parents, making her shiver in fear. Zelda? Her parents? So is she adopted? She approaches the fox and apologizes to her mom for breaking her promise, and the flash of light begins to appear. Ramane wakes up crying, which she finds strange because her dream feels so real, while her stunned husband freezes. He looks so innocent. He then gives her his handkerchief, but the smell causes our girl to become queasy again, and she realizes that it is the scent that is making her feel sick. She really wants to tell Cedric that it's the smell, but her body cannot withstand it anymore and she faints again. Thankfully, her husband manages to save her, but in the process, they both tumble to the ground and he sustains a cut to his arm from a shard of glass. The next morning, Romane wakes up anxious about Cedric, but Jane reassures her that her husband is a knight who has served in many wars, so an injury like this should be nothing. However, our girl can't help but feel bad that he's hurt because of her. Jane, can you hug her, please? Not long after, the Duchess enters her room with a smile, and while drinking tea, Romane discloses that the smell of roses cause her nausea, and she feels awful for hurting Cedric as a result. However, she finds this strange because she has never heard of a disease that causes such symptoms simply by smelling a rose, and she is not having any irritation or difficulty breathing, indicating that this is not an allergy of some sort. She suspects it is psychological, but she has no idea because she does not have the original Romane's memories. Could it be trauma? The Duchess is relieved that Romane is concerned about Cedric, and she believes that her son also likes her. Romane then learns that Cedric was once cheerful and friendly, but the war changed him, possibly because he witnessed so much on the battlefield. He was adamant about avoiding getting married before, but now the Duchess is pleased that the couple is getting closer to each other, which makes Romane feel guilty because everything is completely contractual. When nightfall approaches, Romane chooses to check on our guy, and her brow furrows immediately because his wound appears to be quite deep. Seeing this, our guy makes a move by grabbing her hand and smiling, requesting that she lie down next to him, making her blush, and justifying that this is all part of their married couple act. Cedric shares that he discovered that his pocket has a testing strip with rose perfume on it, which means someone was aware of her dislike for the rose scent and intentionally planned this. He then apologizes, which is quite unusual for him, so Romane reassures him that she also just discovered her dislike for roses. She playfully teases him about the Duchess thinking their married couple act is real, and as she lies down with a smile, she asks him to keep being nice to her until he becomes the Duke. She eventually drifts off to sleep while Cedric continues to gaze at her. As he gently brushes her hair, he finds it amusing that Romane still believes he is just putting on an act. He got shot straight in the heart. Those are the eyes of a guy who's in love. When Cedric wakes up the next day, Romane has already left, and she appears to be in an uneasy state because the world she is in is so different from the novel she's familiar with. She can't tell what changed because she doesn't have Romane's original memories, but she knows who might have a clue: Duke Calypse. Upon entering the Calypse residence, she finds herself in a sitting room that appears strangely familiar. Suddenly, she becomes lightheaded and begins to see visions, including a maid beating her in the past since she can just heal herself. Then it hits her. These are the actual memories of Romane in this very room, and she begins to shudder as if she were reliving the trauma. And if that weren't bad enough, her stepbrother shows up and makes fun of her for returning willingly. Cedric orders Roberto to remove all of the rose gardens on their estate before Romane arrives. After that, he decides to pay a visit to an old carpentry shop run by a blind old man, and without further ado, he tells him that he will not buy anything but will ask him questions because he knows a lot about the Myers family based on what he has heard. He then tells the old man that he once met a Meyer girl after the Emperor ordered their annihilation, and he wonders if the Myers are truly extinct. Cedric timidly admits that he wants to reward the girl, which seems believable, so the old man decides to tell the truth. A few Myers are still alive, but the majority have lost their healing skills. He goes on to say that once they lose their powers, they lose their ability to see the world, prompting him to smile and introduce himself as Evan Myers. This prompts Cedric to reveal that 5 years ago, when he was on the edge of death in the war, a girl with blonde hair, Romane, approached him and resolved to help him. He wasn't able to recognize Romane because he was already losing sight. While Romane was mending him, he noticed the Latore emblem on her cloak, which prompted him to seize her hand and asked if she had come to kill him. Romane pinned him down, and despite her anxiety, she was determined to save him, and she began crying as she described how awful it is to see someone die when you have the ability to heal them. Cedric was growing pale and didn't have the strength to protest, so he fainted and ended up in the barracks the next day. He described the girl as being 3 to 4 years younger than him, which led Evan to believe that she was the rumored child with more special Myers abilities. Meanwhile, the sight of her stepbrother, Sion, brings back painful memories of how he used to treat her like a plaything when they were younger. He made her eat roses, and now she realizes why the scent of roses makes her feel unwell. it's all because of him. I feel so bad for the original Ramane, since the fact that her body remembers the trauma only shows how much she went through. Ramane now figures out that the nightmares she was experiencing were the original Ramane's memories, and she learns that Duke Calypso is not her biological father and that she was simply used as the family's puppet. She then stands up and tells Sion in a clear voice that she has come to meet the Duke, but he appears to be away today. However, Sion dislikes her tone, so he decides to remind her of the good old days by throwing her a flower and commanding her to eat it. Okay, because he's offering it, our girl agrees to accept the bouquet, but what? Eat it, you say? Even better, she uses it to hit him hard in the face because, duh, she is not the Ramane he once knew. Girl, please do it again! Sion's face begins to bleed, and he trembles in shock before screaming at our girl. But it has no effect anymore. So Ramane reminds him that he earned the reputation of a war hero because they were traitors and that he received support from the House Rogers because of her. So with an icy stare, she demands that he act a little grateful. The most cowardly people are bullies, thus, I say we need more violence, my queen. Ramane warns Sion that if he repeats the same act, she will be forced to reveal her identity as a Myers to everyone, and how her healing abilities are the reason Duke Calypso's soldiers survived the battlefield. Sion grows increasingly irritated as he warns her that the royal family will execute her if they discover she's a Myers, but she simply assures him that she doesn't mind revealing her identity, confident that their father will personally kill him for failing to control her. He got speechless. Go, girl! Back to Cedric, he learns that the girl possesses a rare ability to both save and take lives. Cedric hesitantly reveals that after he was saved, he's having issues performing in bed, causing the old man to look horrified. I didn't expect this kind of issue. The old man then explains that Myers can kill, but they are taught not to. Therefore, he thinks she made a mistake, depressing Cedric. So this is why he doesn't want to get married. To ease his worries, he smiles and suggests finding the girl and working with her to find a solution. Actually, Cedric is concerned because he will soon be sleeping with Ramane in the same room again, recalling the previous time they almost did, which caused him to stand on his feet and leave the room. Ramane wakes up feeling terrible that day, but she's relieved that her memories are returning. Ramane Rogers' real name is Zelda Myers, who was born with both healing and killing powers. And after being adopted by Duke Calypso, she purposely acts like a villainess. Then one day, the king ordered her to marry Cedric Rogers, which may have been Ramane's only way out. Upon discovering that she has been sending all the herbs she has collected to Trom, her desire to learn more about the village intensifies. Cedric then visits to inform her about the upcoming hunting competition in Malovar Forest, the same place indicated in Ramane's book where you may get sleep-inducing herbs. She decides to accompany him, leading him to awkwardly explain that there is a tradition where men present the largest game they've hunted to the woman they cherish. He then asks her what animal she wants him to hunt, and she reveals she likes rabbits since they're cute, which makes him smile and kneel before holding her hands, vowing to hunt one for her. Seeing his smile brightens my day. The next day, Ramane goes with Cedric to a clothing store, and when she looks at him, she finds him incredibly gorgeous, like a work of art. As they prepare to leave the store, Ramane spots someone she recognizes. It surprises her to see Killian cheerfully conversing with a woman next to him who isn't Elena, prompting her to suspect that he's having an affair. Oh, so he's not gay. Ramane starts dragging her husband and walking faster, but Killian is still following behind, making her very anxious. So, to distract Cedric, she pulls him closer and kisses him, turning him red, and notices how he doesn't waste his chance as he holds her and deepens their kiss. Oh my, their kiss is in broad daylight! Ramane is relieved that Killian has already passed by, so she instantly explains to Cedric that a public kiss will make their act more convincing, causing our guy to have a "huh?" look on his face before becoming disappointed. The hunting competition has finally arrived, and our couple looks wonderful in their matching outfits. They are then greeted by Edward. Cedric appears to be irritated by his appearance, but he introduces him to Ramane as someone who attended the same academy as him and is now a captain of the Royal Guard. Edward then warns them that a massive bear, the largest in history, is in the forest, and whomever captures it will win the challenge, which makes our girl nervous because she intends to collect herbs in the forest later. Since Romane is participating in the hunting competition for the first time, Cedric explains that the ladies will wait in the shed built for them until the event is over, and if she gets bored, she can go for a walk. However, Cedric urges her not to go beyond the visible brown flags, which designate the hunting areas and indicate a serious risk. Despite the warning, she gladly complies, believing she can avoid the bear if she stays within the allowed area. Suddenly, they are surprised by the sound of cheers welcoming Sion, who, upon noticing them, strides over to offer his greetings, prompting Romane to think he remains as arrogant as ever. After a brief exchange of formalities, Sion reveals how empty their estate feels without Romane, claiming she is the source of his joy. He goes on to say that he is confident that Romane is also entertaining Cedric as his wife, causing her body to tremble. Yet she understands that raising her voice in public would only lead to trouble, so she chooses to remain silent. In that moment, Cedric steps forward, firmly advising Sion to refrain from such comments, emphasizing his respect for Romane and his unwillingness to tolerate any disrespect toward her. He then turns to his wife, and both of them leave that ugly man. As Romane sits alone, one of the ladies throws her a disdainful glance, surprised by her presence, while another harsh lady laughs, mentioning Romane's sensitivity to floral scents and wondering if she can tolerate the smell of grass. The lady with grass-colored hair expressed compassion to Elena, who had lost her rose garden due to Romane's action. However, Elena simply laughed and encouraged the ladies to be kinder with Romane, assuring them that she is most likely thinking about her actions. This further fueled Romane's rage, prompting her to rise up, face Elena head-on, and ask why she should reflect on her actions. However, Elena maintains her innocent act, which leads Romane to talk about the trouble she's caused for the servants, pointing out that she tends to pick on them due to their lower status and reminding her that she's different from them, implying that she should start thinking more carefully from now on. I love how she took the situation seriously. That's some queen behavior right there. Romane then goes around and decides to collect some herbs. I don't think I've ever read a story that didn't involve hunting competition problems, so I guess good luck, girl? Romane, filled with enthusiasm at the sight of a bunch of herbs, begins to collect them. However, she senses a strange presence prompting her to stand upright and survey her surroundings. Suddenly, an arrow strikes her directly, catching her off guard, and then another arrow follows, filling her with confusion, uncertain about the unfolding events. Frantically, she rushes back to the tent, her mind consumed by thoughts of her fate in the forest, when suddenly an arrow flies in and hits her face, frightening her. At that moment, she hears Cedric calling her name, so she turns around and swiftly closes her eyes, fully aware that the next arrow will undoubtedly hit her. However, Cedric embraces her, and the arrow lands on his shoulder instead of hers, which causes her fear. He then soothes her, assuring her that everything is fine because he's there for her. Romane expresses her willingness to treat him, but Cedric is quick to stop her, advising her not to do anything and signaling for her to remain quiet. Out of nowhere, a massive bear emerges, causing her eyes to widen as Cedric embraces her. Now, being attacked by such a massive beast will undoubtedly be unbearable. Luckily, the bear just strolls by without noticing them. After that, she hears a rustling sound again and assumes the bear has returned, but instead she sees Edward and waves to get his attention. Seeing her and Cedric surprises him, and after examining his injuries, he decides he needs medical attention immediately. Romane offers to help move Cedric, but Edmund declines, prompting her to carry his belongings, despite Cedric's insistence that he can walk on his own. They've returned to the manor, but Romane believes that if someone is chasing her, it must be Sion Calypse. That guy seems too cowardly. Maybe Elena? She believes that her healing powers would have protected her, but it was Cedric who suffered harm, and he insisted that she do nothing, even though he's hurt. She begins to suspect that Cedric is aware of Romane's powers, but she dismisses the idea, supposing he is simply ordering her to stay still because of the bear. Then, eager to see Cedric, she asks Jane to help her get dressed. Because Romane cannot afford to display her healing abilities, she decides to use her doctor skills instead, keeping a watch on him all night, which should be easy for her because she's used to working night shifts. Just then, she hears a rustling sound, prompting Cedric to inform her that he got the rabbit she wanted, which she had completely forgotten because she was too concentrated on his lovely face that day. She stretches out her hand, and the cute, adorable bunny quickly nuzzles it, prompting her to blush with joy. She expected Cedric to kill a rabbit for her rather than give her a pet, He knows how much she values life, and he figured she would rather want the rabbit to live. I never imagined he could be this sweet, and that bunny is just the cutest. Winning a hunting competition is great, but what truly fills his heart is knowing that he brings happiness to his wife. He's so down bad. After that, she lies down next to him, prompting him to share that Edward is currently looking into the shooting case. He hopes she won't feel guilty, and as he gives her the sweetest smile, he confesses that he did what he did because he didn't want to see her hurt. This makes Romane blush and can't help but misinterpret his kindness for something more. The next day, the Duchess summoned Romane and the witch to notify them of the changes in the estate management. Elena has been assigned to this duty, which the Duchess believes is going well, but she doesn't want to disregard Romane's efforts to help the people on the estate, so she chooses to delegate some responsibilities to her. As expected, the witch reacts, prompting the Duchess to clarify that she has handed over some of her responsibilities to her because she thought she'd be the next Duchess. However, since she and Killian aren't married yet, things need to change, which leaves Elena looking really hurt. And I love it! The title is still open, and do you truly believe it's you at this point? The Duchess further clarifies that she isn't delegating all of the work to Romane, but that the two of them could collaborate, making Elena seem uneasy. That expression says I embezzled money and no one should know. Our girl is heading out, and she's feeling great all thanks to Elena's sour face earlier. That's right, same girl. Now that she's in charge of the estate, Cedric has a better chance of becoming the Duke, which could mean their divorce might happen even sooner. When she arrives in the middle of the forest, the coachman swears to keep this a secret from Cedric and to wait for Romane in the carriage. She ventures further into the forest and reaches the village named Trom, a place she's been having dreams about. She spots a house and realizes that it must be the original Romane's home, which appears so tidy and filled with vials. She finds a letter on the shelf that appears to be Romane's letter to whoever entered into her house. In it, she asks that, should she already be dead, she hopes the reader will inform Mrs. Spencer. So the original is expecting her death? There's an address at the bottom, so she goes there and meets Mrs. Spencer, an old blind lady who begins crying because she is glad that Romane is okay. The old lady refers to her as Zelda, implying that she is familiar with her past and must also be a Myers. Mrs. Spencer then informs her that there was a contagious disease from a nearby town, but they are all fine now thanks to the guild, which developed an effective treatment. She also says she has finished producing the medicine she asked for a young sick lady, which Romane assumes is for Lucia. The old lady gently holds her hand and thinks about whether she still wishes to stay anonymous, considering it's all because of the money and gems she's been sending that they can create medicine. Thanks to her, the Myers, who lost their powers, came together to form a guild dedicated to helping the injured and those who are unwell. Now she finally discovers that the original Romane appears to act evil on the surface, but actually she's a kind and selfless lady. Talking about medicine, she lets the old lady know that they can now make it more efficiently with Duke Haribo's help, but for now, she leaves some medicines with her until she returns. Mrs. Spencer is thrilled to see how Romane has grown into such a wonderful person and believes that her mom and Lily would be so proud of her. Lily? The same name appears on a sketch of a little girl she saw in Romane's secret room. Don't tell me she's Elena! There's no way! That evening, Sylvia reports to Cedric how Romane went to the woods and met an elderly woman named Porter Spencer, who is blind. This reminds him of Evan, and he recalls how Romane's face healed after being grazed by an arrow. Everything makes sense now, and he concludes that Romane must be a Myers. Sylvia chooses to express what she has seen so far and claims that, contrary to Romane's reputation, she's actually a nice person, so she hopes that Cedric can clear up any confusion, leading her master to giggle at how mature his little spy has become. He then smiles and assures Sylvia that he is only concerned about Romane, which causes this girl to question whether he's in love with the madam, making him very tense. When will we see Sylvia's face? I imagine she'll appear really adorable. The next morning, as Romane opens her door, she gets quite the surprise when she sees Roberto, looking very stiff, already standing outside. Jane then checks what happened when, out of nowhere, Roberto hands her a box of chocolates before casually walking away. This sweet and devoted maid thinks that Roberto is giving it to her lady, prompting our girl to clarify that it's for her before she dashes away, giggling about how Roberto has a crush on Jane. They do look good together. She then finds Cedric already walking around outside, which prompts the doctor inside her to scold him, insisting that he needs to rest for at least 10 more days. Meanwhile, our guy here isn't really listening and just blushes as he realizes that he has truly fallen in love with Lamaine. She keeps nagging him, so Cedric can't help but give her a hug, but she quickly pushes him away. This makes him snap back to his usual self, and he claims he was just putting on an act. Anyway, she grabs his hand and drags him inside, and he's unable to resist, but wants to keep playing weak so Lamaine will continue to be worried about him. He admits his feelings and is turning into such an adorable, loving husband. It's been a week, and Cedric's injury pain is nearly gone, all thanks to the medicine Duke Haribo sent over. Watching Lamaine head off from his window makes him curious about when his wife will share that she's a Myers, and is beginning to worry that she might think that he will abandon her when that happens. Lamaine is presently at Duke Haribo's estate to express her gratitude for the medicine he sent to Cedric. She's also pleased to notice that he has removed the flowers and replaced them with green plants, which causes this bubbly man to chuckle and informs her that his sister's health has greatly improved as a result of her suggestions. After that, he turns serious and asks what her answer is to his offer to become business partners, prompting Lamaine to tell him about her research team, and if he pledges not to dig up information about them, she will accept it. The Duke doesn't hesitate to do so as long as he gets the desired results. With that stated, Lamaine offers to share how to use and produce the medicine with him, so his responsibility is to invest in the ingredients and secure distribution channels for their products, particularly to commoners, with the profit split 50-50 between them. I sincerely hope he's a good guy because Lamaine is putting the lives of the Tron people at stake. Although Benz is in agreement with her terms, the public's view of her as a villainess casts doubt on her reliability as a manufacturer. This urges her to propose that they search for someone to represent their business, someone who will resonate with the everyday people. The guy is instantly enthusiastic about the idea and happily agrees to help find the perfect person. Benz then asks whether her husband is aware of their business, prompting Lamaine to shake her head, as she has no plans to inform Cedric since it is all for her own profit, and she intends to leave him soon anyhow. When Lamaine gets home, she tells Cedric that she went out to thank Duke Haribo, which immediately irritates him because he believes Benz likes her. Furthermore, he begins to suspect that Ramaine's adamant desire for a divorce is due to her feelings for the Duke. But he quickly dismisses this thought because, duh, his wife went out to thank the man for him. After leaving, he goes to his room and begins to feel guilty that he didn't ask Lamaine why she wants a divorce. Yet, he also realizes that he might not be able to handle the news well. Out of nowhere, Roberto's voice echoes, startling Cedric. Yet this right-hand guy reminds him that he's essentially his shadow. Roberto puts his hand on his master's shoulder and says with a straight face that if he loves Lamaine, he will support him. This devoted servant makes weird faces as he describes how he witnessed his master stare at Lamaine with affection, and in a war cry voice, argues that Cedric has no reason to be jealous of another man because he's a capable, distinguished gentleman who can easily win over a girl. His poker face is gone. Roberto is really on fire at the moment, while Cedric is a bit taken aback but happily goes along when Roberto instructs him to read a special book. Ah, the things we do for love. During the family dinner, Duke Roger informs that the Grand Duke Rossetti will be hosting a banquet at his new summer house on the shores of Lake Saharina, and the entire family agrees to go. Lamaine is concerned about Cedric because his shoulder hasn't fully healed yet, but our guy assures never to let her go to a banquet alone, which is a relief because she doesn't want to be huddled by those awful ladies again. She then wonders if he has spoken with his father about the title, but it appears that they are in the midst of discussing it, so no progress has been made for now. When Lamaine states that they divorce as soon as he becomes Duke, Cedric pauses, as if those words had just cut him. He then stares at her with an expression of deep pain, asks if he is a terrible husband, and finally, in a desperate voice, promises to give her all the money she wants. But it's when Lamaine reveals that she's aware of his feelings for Elena that he just freezes. Wow, the look of horror and disgust on his face is just priceless. As the story goes, the second male lead, Cedric, develops a secret crush on the female protagonist, Elena. However, on this exact day, Cedric's expression reads more like, "That is such a disgusting idea." As soon as he calms himself, he firmly states that Elena is like a younger sister to him and coldly informs her that he doesn't like her for any other reason, leaving our girl stunned and betrayed by the novel. We have resolved that misunderstanding. The sun is still shining when they arrive at the Grand Duke Rossetti's banquet, and to ease things up, Romane begins to chat by mentioning that there are more flowers here than at their estate. She can't help but feel surprised when this guy blushes and delivers a cheesy line, saying she's more beautiful than any of the flowers. Oh wow, that's super cheesy for his character. Romane turns her gaze to avoid the thought that Cedric might have feelings for her, while Cedric appears genuinely puzzled by her response, as he had learned this pickup line from the book Roberto gave him. When Sion and Elena finally meet at the party, he appears enraged. It turns out that the witch was behind the shooting scheme and he had to clean up after her. They intend to drown our girl today because the feast is being held near the lake. The mastermind? Elena. So Sion can't help but think that she's incredibly evil. After he wonders why she wants to kill Romane, Elena reveals that since Romane arrived at their estate, she has stolen a lot of things from her, including her loving brothers, the Duchess, and everyone else who lives there. Such a psycho, ungrateful girl. Get some help! This time, she decides to make sure Romane can never take anything from her. This is how you will lose them, as well as some teeth after I give you a quick tap on the face. Meanwhile, Romane and Cedric are simply enjoying food, with Cedric telling her not to drink alcohol because she may become overly touchy and chatty. Romane doesn't understand why he's preventing her from drinking, so she feeds him a tart while at the same time saying that he can't drink too, since his shoulder isn't healed yet. See how she feeds him and the way he digs it feels so natural and sweet. She then spots Duke Haribo from afar and wants to know if he's already found a puppet boss. However, her staring at him causes Cedric to become worried, causing Romane to assume that he isn't feeling well, and she orders him to rest in the carriage for now. However, she is unaware that Elena and a black-haired girl are watching them, and this new lady assures Elena that she will do what she says. After some time, she gets to speak with Benz, who gleefully informs her that he's found a puppet boss for their business, but he cannot disclose anything right now. He smiles sweetly and promises her that he will explain everything later before departing. Just then, Romane gets a chill when Duke Calypse approaches her and warns her that he will soon become captain of the security brigade, so she better not cause a scene now. This causes our female to snap back, claiming that it gives him more reason to beg with her because he has a lot to lose, before she fiercely storms away. Wow, she seems pretty fearless, doesn't she? That's great! The black-haired girl greets Romane and quickly reveals that Duke Haribo sent her, leading Romane to believe she's the puppet boss the Duke mentioned. Then Clara Gardiner introduces herself and explains that Duke Haribo has sent her to relay a message, and because Romane believes Duke Haribo is busy, she decides to trust Clara. As they stroll down the corridor, Romane follows Clara, who's happily chatting away, but Romane suspects they are heading to a more isolated area, so she quickly pauses and tells Clara that she may tell her the message now that they're alone, but she nearly tells her that the Duke wants to show her something. Because of this, Romane starts to think the Duke didn't send Clara, which makes Clara thrilled as she sees a dark figure lurking behind Romane, ready to strike. As Cedric sits in the carriage, he notices the weather worsening, and with all the rain falling, he believes he shouldn't be relaxing there. He then walks out and instructs Roberto to send a message informing everyone that the estate is by the lake and that they may end up isolated. Roberto is quite concerned about him and suggests going back to the mansion himself, but he insists on going because he wants to bring Romane back. Cedric burst into the mansion looking for Romane, but Elena brushed off his question, prompting him to ask again. She explains that Romane can make her way back later and urges them to leave quickly since they were drawing attention. This irritates Cedric, who turns to Elena and says he doesn't mind, and adds that even though he doesn't understand how she feels about Romane, she is their family and his wife. He made it clear he will not leave until he finds her, and tells Elena she can go if she wants, leaving her speechless. Elena then turns to the Duchess for help, but she ignores her and assures Cedric that they will help him find Romane. The Duchess then grabs everyone's attention by asking whether anyone has seen Romane, which Cedric appreciates as he sets out to find her, while Elena acts so sad that no one is on her side. Oh, are you gonna cry now? Go howl elsewhere, witch! Cedric calls Romane's name repeatedly while searching every corner of the mansion, but she's nowhere in sight, making him frustrated. Suddenly, Duke Haribo calls for him and swiftly expresses that he heard he can't find his wife, and learns from the butler that he spotted a young woman leaving the room with Romane, urging Cedric to follow his lead. Meanwhile, Ramane wakes up in a dark place and figures out that she's trapped somewhere. She remembers being attacked from behind and then blacking out, causing her to scream in panic, hoping someone would hear her. Out of nowhere, she spots water trickling in, making her think she's actually in the lake. At that moment, Sylvia is hurrying over to Roberto to let him know that Ramane is in trouble. He then points out the ground with footprints that he thinks lead to the lake, and that gets them both thinking they should follow those tracks, just in case their instincts about Ramane being in the lake are right. Two guys are just about to wrap up their work when they spot two stunning men in front of them, and believing they're busted, they quickly decide to run away. But seriously, who could possibly escape from these two guys? Cedric then blocks the attacker's foot, causing him to fall on the ground, and furiously warns him to speak or he would die. Ramane is determined to risk her life and swim, so she starts punching the wall with all her strength, pleading not to die there. As she struggles to break through the wall, a flash of light emanates from her hand, and voila! The container cracks, leaving her confused, feeling something tingling in her hand. But she ignores it and takes a deep breath before swimming upward. Then the scene from her wedding day returns to her thoughts, filled with delight that she's finally free from her father's control, and she's relieved that Cedric has no affections for her because she intends to leave the mansion as soon as possible following their wedding, believing that she's doomed to die anyway. The original was dying? She also kept her mother's bracelet on her wedding day. Her mom firmly urged her never to take it off, as it would be a source of support for her in the future when she and her dad are no longer around. Had she put it on? Obviously, Ramane's husband saves her just in time, and as soon as they reach the land, Cedric's terror sets in and he starts yelling her name, eventually waking her up. Her initial thought is how dashing the angry and drenched Cedric looks, which makes her grin and feel glad that he saved her. However, our guy is still reeling from the fright and is quite upset. To calm him down, Ramane hugs him and expresses her gratitude that he did not abandon her, and Cedric's smile returns as he hugs her back. Time is over for now, lovebirds, since Mr. Bubbly Duke wants to remind you that we have the criminals here, as well as Roberto and Sylvia on the side, prompting Cedric to proclaim that he's going to investigate the criminals himself. But for now, it's time to go home. Ramane wakes up in her bed after passing out, and it is the lovely Jane who has fallen asleep next to her and is immediately fretting over her condition. When Ramane finds out what happened to Cedric, she immediately checks on him and discovers that he has a high fever. Cedric leans in to kiss the back of her hand, expressing just how crazy he is for her. But it seems that's not quite enough for him, so he goes ahead and kisses her, making our girl blush bright red. Sick Cedric is romantic. He then stares into her eyes, explaining that after almost losing her today, he realized he shouldn't hesitate any longer and confesses that he loves her, and so he begs her to stay. Ramane appears uncertain as she looks down, which pains him, yet he grins and assures her that he can wait for her response. She has realized just how great a person Cedric is, so there's no reason for her not to like him. But Ramane believes this is even more reason why she should divorce him. Ma'am, how about trying another solution? Communication? Later that night, Cedric and Sylvia are deep in the forest, interrogating not only the mercenaries, but also Lady Clara. Cedric draws his sword from its sheath and aims it at this witch, making her cry and reveal that Elena, who conspired with Sion, is the mastermind. She goes on to add that it was Elena who planned the arrow shooting case during the hunting competition, and that Cedric may simply ask the blacksmith who created the arrowheads for proof. Clara feels some relief as Cedric acknowledges that her information is useful. She assumes he would spare her life after this. However, our guy gives her an ugly look and reminds her that he never promised to save her life before slashing his blade and splattering blood. Claire may be used as a witness, but she knows Ramane is a Myers, so I think he made the right choice. Ramane pays a visit to Duke Haribo, where they are finalizing their deal, and the Duke promises to keep their medical formulations secret while sourcing the ingredients. However, he has one question. Why is Cedric here and glaring at him from behind? The truth is, when he confessed that night, he also decided to inform her that he already knew she was a part of the Myers clan and was only waiting for her to tell him. He sincerely hopes that as a married couple, they will not keep any secrets from each other. And he asks with such puppy eyes that Ramane can't help but reveal about their pharmaceutical business. So thankful they communicated! And this is why Cedric follows her around like a loyal puppy, despite his angry gaze at our innocent gummy bear Duke. Adorable Lucia then enters the room and with a shy voice, asks Ramane if they may talk privately for a moment, which she accepts, but is concerned about leaving the two lads alone. Now that they're alone, the young girl confesses that she had no idea Cedric Rogers was married and had been crushing on him all along. However, after seeing them at the banquet, she eventually moved on, prompting Ramane to giggle at how innocent this little girl is for apologizing. After giving it some thought, she realizes that Duke Haribo's anger at Cedric is a defense mechanism to protect his beloved younger sister. This just makes me like the Duke more. Such a cutie. Meanwhile, in the Calypso residence, Sion slaps a poor maid back and forth after discovering that Ramane is still alive. He's frustrated right now because both Clara and the mercenaries are nowhere to be found, increasing his itch to kill Ramane. Sion is unaware that his father has returned home and overhears him mentioning Ramane, prompting him to hastily give an excuse that he's merely wondering why Ramane and Cedric did not attend the banquet together, because it could have a negative impact on him. This just drives his father's rage as he declares that Sion should not be concerned about these matters because he's too stupid and may reveal their secrets. Sion also learns that his father will be given command over the security brigade, giving him the freedom to use the Martin Kingdom soldiers as he pleases. The Duke then instructs him to stay at home and goes away, calling him stupid, prompting Sion to reflect on how his father favors Ramane and now the security brigade, but not him, who is constantly met with a cold stare. This makes Sion look so sinister, swearing to destroy our girl. Wow, this guy has major daddy issues. Ramane arrives in Trom Village, where it appears that Mrs. Spencer and the entire guild have decided to take on the business. The elderly lady then hands her the book containing information about the medicines they've developed thus far, and she is overjoyed that everyone will soon be able to access them. Mrs. Spencer then recalls that there was a girl who had previously visited the village who, like Ramane, had been helpful and kind. Ramane is shocked, but she thinks it wasn't her mom, because Mrs. Spencer is a family friend. The lady goes on to tell that the kind lady was knowledgeable about medicine and had brought the village medicine, herbs, and even food on her own, but one day she never returned. Another unknown person has joined the drama? The entire community was concerned, but because they didn't know her identity, they couldn't do anything. That said, Mrs. Spencer sincerely hopes that Ramane will rely on them and not carry her burden alone, which touches our girl's heart. When she strolls back home, she encounters a blushing Cedric who awkwardly asks if they can bathe together. Ramane is practically shaking. This guy must be a professional seducer. My guy is really stepping up his game. She frets that he'll unleash those puppy eyes again, which is her weakness, so she decides to reject him properly by explaining that she has a lot to do and so cannot accept his confession of love. Man down, I repeat, man down, and I'm taking him with me. Ramane is now taking a bath to clear her mind and realizes that she should have been honest with Cedric about her feelings for him, but they will not be able to grow old together because she's dying. Is she referring to the vision she once had of the original Ramane discussing her own death? Still, she resolves to devote her limited time to more important things until she looks in the mirror and discovers bruises all over her body. Looks like she really is sick, huh? On the other hand, Cedric pays a visit to Elena to inform her that he's divorcing Ramane, because the Emperor is considering Duke Calypso for the position of commander of the security brigade, which he had been wanting. He also claims that Elena was correct when she stated that strange things are happening because of Ramane, particularly when he was shot by an arrow. He promises to torture whoever is responsible, making her look frightened. And since there's a good chance he'll find out given Clara's disappearance, she decides to come clean and reveals that she was the mastermind behind the shooting. So, how can you cleanse it if the evil is so deeply embedded within? So, as expected, she twists her story, claiming that she only did it for his sake because Ramane is a Myers, and she is concerned that he will be affected if this secret becomes public. She then throws Sion under the bus, crying that Sion was threatening her and she had no option but to obey his orders. But Cedric recognizes that she is trying to save herself and will lie even more if he asks further questions. For the time being, Cedric says he would continue to portray himself as a loving husband in order to use Ramane to approach Sion, before assuring Elena that he will handle everything. Ramane claimed that he is a decent person, but he now believes she's mistaken because he is willing to do dirty things to protect her. The next day, the Duchess informed our couple that they would have to attend Viscount Ian Ralph's tea party, but Ramane is concerned because their situation is still awkward. However, Cedric just smiles at her and expresses excitement about buying new outfits together, which relieves her and makes her smile back. When Lamaine goes to her room, she hears from Jane that the Viscount's daughter, Lady Cordelia, and Cedric attended the same school when they were younger, and that when Cordelia nearly fell off a cliff, Cedric saved her. Cordelia then fell in love and even proposed to Cedric, but our guy refused, and the Calypso and Roger's arranged marriage took place not long after. In the novel, Cordelia is the supporting love interest of Cedric, and now Lamaine thinks she might be getting in the way of the two. Cedric talks with Boris Black, the present captain of the security brigade, who, due to his poor health, urgently requires a replacement. The captain has also heard about Calypso as the future captain, but it appears that he dislikes him as well, prompting Cedric to advise that Boris persuade everyone at the next captain's meeting to transfer voting rights to the knights. Normally, the Majesty selects who the next captain will be, but in the Martin Kingdom, the knights can vote on it to avoid dictatorship. Boris grumbles because no other candidate can compete with a war hero Duke Calypso, prompting Cedric to declare his candidacy for the role. Today, Killian offers Elena a lovely necklace, but she thinks it's a bribe to stay quiet about his affair. This isn't truly an affair because Killian admitted to Elena before they got engaged that he had a commoner lover and even wanted to call off the engagement. This enraged her because she had been debating which of the brothers to choose for a long time and ended up with Killian, who has no ambition, so she manipulated him by telling him that his parents would be shocked if he married a commoner. Cedric chose knighthood, so Killian as the eldest must continue their lineage, so she proposed that they keep the engagement and she be the one to convince their parents that she does not want to marry. However, now that she feels she has seen Cedric's true intentions in pursuing the title, she smiles evilly and believes she will soon replace Lamaine. Such a creepy delulu. Clearly they're not into it. These boys simply see you like a sister. Duke Calypso is aware that there are still nobility who oppose him, so he approached the palace's interior minister for support. The Duke exits the office, visibly irritated since the minister wants a domain in exchange, which he has no choice but to accept, when he notices Cedric entering the security brigade's office, leading him to suspect Cedric also wants the captain position. Meanwhile, Duke Haribo takes Lamaine to a small village where their pharmaceutical workshop is located. It has all the essential equipment, and he even created a secret meeting room connected to the back door, which makes Lamaine very happy. Not only that, but he also made her a private office, and our girl can't control her joy as she holds his hand while expressing gratitude, leaving him stunned before serving the cutest smile. They then proceed to the basement, where Lamaine fails to see the protruding nail on the stair handrail, scratching her hand and causing it to bleed. Her wound will heal immediately, so she covers her hand behind her, causing Benz to smirk creepily as he wonders if she's hiding something. Was that nail intentional? Lamaine is shocked and unsure what to do when Benz calls her Zelda and returns to his normal joyful smile, telling her how much he misses her. Cousin? Friend? Please do not be evil. They head back to the Haribo estate to show her his mother's portrait, which leads her to have a vision of young Zelda and her sister receiving help from Mrs. Myers. She was the one who helped them escape, encouraging them to head to a village. She even provided them with food and clothes, her eyes welling up with tears as she expressed her sorrow for not being able to do more for Zelda. Mrs. Myers also encourages her to keep wearing her bracelet, so one day they will recognize each other when they meet again. Oh, thank goodness. Duke Haribo is an ally! Benz explains that his mother used to accompany him to the village where the Myers clan lived, which is when the two of them met. He is confident that if it hadn't been for the execution, they would have become great childhood friends by now. His mother was able to conceal her identity when she married his father, and she died after she was no longer able to use her healing abilities, leading Lamaine to figure out that the reason the original Lamaine sensed her death was due to this. Benz informs her that if they do not use their powers, their bodies degenerate and they die as a result. Lamaine can't stop worrying and panics, asking if there's no cure, prompting Benz to notice that she is sick and even observe the bruise on her wrist, which is the same bruising his mother had before. He is concerned about her because she reminds him of his mother, who also dreamed of a kingdom without sick people, which causes Lamaine to realize that the kind lady Mrs. Spencer was referring to is Mrs. Myers, which means she and Benz are now fulfilling what she was unable to complete. Benz gets confused when Lamaine suddenly asserts that he is just like his mother because she has realized that, aside from the monetary profits, He's doing this business because he cares about people. She then grins broadly and states that he's just as compassionate and kind as his mother, causing him to flush and tensely respond that compliments won't increase her share of earnings. He then decides to change the subject and inquires about Lily, whom Ramane now remembers as the reason the original Ramane began developing medicine. But for some reason, Ramane bites her lips as she recalls where Lily is. Ramane recalls how officials once threatened to burn the village if she refused to comply. With courage, she tells them she is the only one living there and is determined to protect Lily, who remains hidden. In the present, Ramane tells Haribo how fate brought them together again, though Lily had already lost her sight. Haribo wonders whether Lily's blindness is linked to her losing her healing powers as a Myers. Ramane confirms this and says it inspired her to begin researching a cure for Lily. What a loving sister! Haribo offers his heartfelt sympathies to Ramane and Lily, and Ramane thanks him before asking whether he or his sister inherited any healing powers. Haribo replies that fortunately, they did not, and explains that Lucia's illness is mostly psychological, not related to any healing abilities. Hearing this, Ramane feels a wave of disappointment, as she had hoped to find similar cases to guide her search for answers. She decides to visit Lily as she used to in the past. Meanwhile, Cedric visits Evan to ask about the Myers child and how to resolve the situation. Evan bluntly tells Cedric that even if the child is found, the healing power of the Myers clan is not just a blessing, but a cruel gift that comes with a cost. If the power remains unused for too long, it begins to consume the body's functions, leading to a slow death. Cedric realizes that Ramane might be dealing with this problem, so she is cold towards him since she's been dealing with a lot. Evan adds that one can know death is approaching when black marks appear on the body after healing themselves. Meanwhile, Ramane and Jane travel to the villages where Ramane remembers Lily is staying. On their way to the Trom village, Ramane's horse rears up without warning, nearly unseating her. Jane moves with lightning speed, catching Ramane just in time to keep her safe, leaving Ramane shaken by how close she came to falling. Afterward, Ramane looks at Jane with wide-eyed admiration, playfully calling her as swift as an athlete. Jane exhales softly, relieved that her secret remains hidden and that Ramane seems to think only of her bravery. When they arrive at the village, Lily greets Ramane warmly and thanks her for visiting again. Once she confirms Ramane is alone, Lily calls out that it is safe for everyone to come out of hiding, easing the tension for those waiting. Noticing Ramane's questioning gaze, Lily explains that a stranger recently came searching for members of the Myers clan. As Ramane listens, she realizes this is just like before, and her heart sinks at the thought of the children suffering once again. As Lily busies herself, Ramane's gaze lingers, her heart aching at the thought that Lily might never know she is truly Zelda, her lost sister, or that another soul now lives within Ramane, leaving her torn between longing and secrecy. Ramane urges Lily to come with her to the mansion, promising a more comfortable life. But Lily refuses, determined to stay and care for the children who depend on her, the only family she has left, and Ramane feels the weight of that refusal. Hearing Lily's words, Ramane wonders if Lily's resolve comes from being abandoned by Zelda, and guilt washes over her. She quickly tries to lift the mood, telling Lily she wants to check on her health to develop a treatment and better understand her condition, in hopes of making amends. Later that night, Ramane is startled to find Cedric waiting for her. When he asks about her day, she only offers silence, and Cedric lets the matter rest. Ramane apologizes, assuring him she would never tarnish his name, but Cedric simply takes her hand, exposing the dark marks that have appeared on her skin and deepening her fear. Poor Ramane, bearing her pain in silence. Cedric is shaken to his core when he sees the black marks on Ramane's body. He stares at her, his concern raw and immediate, struggling to accept that she has hidden her illness from him. In that moment, he almost wishes she loved someone else instead. Ramane is left speechless as Cedric breaks down in tears, pouring out his heart to her. Hearing him, she realizes just how genuine and deep his feelings truly are. Vince's advice echoes in her mind. Cedric deserves to know about her illness so they can face it together. Summoning her courage, Ramane confesses to Cedric how terrified she is, and that her time may be running out. As Evan's warning about a Myers slowly fading without using healing power comes back to Cedric, he pulls Ramane into a fierce embrace, admitting his own fear of losing her without ever knowing the truth. Next, Cedric promises Lamaine that he will stay by her side, whether she is a Myers or her days are numbered. Lamaine then reveals the plans she and Vince had been working on, helping the children of the Myers clan lead the distribution of treatments for the sick. In this way, even the king will struggle to wipe them out, and the Myers can finally live peacefully among others. What a man Cedric is! Afterward, Cedric gently asks Lamaine how much time she has left. She admits she does not know for sure, but she wants to find a way for them to be together, and he wholeheartedly agrees. Then Cedric asks to see how severe Lamaine's bruises are. Lamaine reveals the extent of her bruises to Cedric, explaining that Calypso, Sion, and the maids inflicted them, both to test if she still has her powers and simply to torment her. Cedric is overcome with fury and horror as he realizes the depth of Lamaine's suffering. The next morning at breakfast, Cedric's mother inquires about Lamaine's new business. Cedric explains that Lamaine is creating and selling perfumes. Cedric then reveals that Lamaine is working with Vince and that he himself plans to invest in the venture, leaving his mother stunned since everyone knows how jealous Cedric is of Vince. As the conversation unfolds, Elena grows increasingly anxious about Cedric's intentions. He had confided to her that he wanted to divorce Lamaine, yet his actions now seem to contradict that plan. Elena's too obsessed. During the official meeting, the Emperor announces that the Black position will soon be vacant and that it's up to Black to choose who his successor will be. Hearing this, Calypso smiles since he is confident that it'll be him who is taking the position. But as soon as Black informs them that choosing the captain will be by election, Calypso smiles because he thinks that it'll be only him who wants to be a candidate, but is annoyed to see that Cedric also nominates himself. Calypso begins to persuade everyone by boasting about his long service to the Empire and his many victories, insisting he is the best candidate. Cedric stands his ground, pointing out that although Calypso has fought and won more battles, not all were for the Empire. The other knights murmur in agreement, and the room quickly erupts into a heated debate. Sensing the rising tension, the Emperor abruptly ends the meeting and announces that the vote will be postponed, giving everyone more time to consider their choices. Cedric is quietly pleased, as this delay gives him more time to set his plan in motion. Cedric then glares at Calypso, silently vowing that those who hurt Lamaine will suffer even more than she did. After the meeting, Calypso corners Cedric, demanding to know his intentions. He tries to sway Cedric by promising that, if Cedric lets him become Security Brigade Captain, Cedric will gain honor as his son-in-law. Cedric counters, pointing out that Calypso would also benefit if Cedric took the position, which only fuels Calypso's anger. Cedric insists he is not acting out of spite. Sensing the rising tension, Cedric ends the conversation, admitting he had not realized Calypso wanted the position. He promises to reconsider before the next meeting, acknowledging Calypso's connection as Lamaine's husband. Calypso smirks, realizing Cedric's devotion to Lamaine could work in his favor. Cedric then requests a favor. He asks Calypso to send his 2 longest-serving staff to stay with them. Calypso agrees, already plotting his next move. When Calypso returns, he orders Diana and Rodin to pack their belongings, informing them they will be living with Lamaine as Cedric requested. With a cold glare, he warns them to enjoy their time with Lamaine by making her remember her past experience. Gosh, they are so evil! 2 days later, a carriage arrives for Rodin and Diana. As they load their belongings, Diana's mind churns with schemes to torment Lamaine. Later, Diana wakes up to find the carriage deep in the forest. Panic-stricken, she shakes Rodin awake. As they prepare to step out, they see Cedric waiting, sword drawn, his presence terrifying them. Cedric orders his guards to imprison them, declaring that death would be too merciful. The next morning, while Jane helps Lamaine get ready, she spots a tear in her own uniform. Jane explains that it happened during laundry. Hearing this, Lamaine lights up and eagerly offers to shop for Jane, knowing about the budding romance between Jane and Roberto and wanting to lend a hand. When Jane hesitates, Lamaine gently insists. Touched by Ramaine's warmth, Jane finally agrees. Later, as Jane limps down the hall, Roberto spots her and immediately notices her injured ankle. Concerned, he asks how long she plans to keep working. Jane assures him that she has no intention of stopping, and is determined to protect Lamaine as well. Meanwhile, Lamaine gazes with excitement at the completed antidote for Rodel's epilepsy, grateful for Mrs. Spencer's medicinal knowledge, and proud to have helped bring it to completion. The accomplishment fills her with a deep sense of reward. As Ramane steps out of her office, she spots her handsome husband chatting with Vince. She dashes over and throws her arms around Cedric, making him blush as he tries to keep his composure. Cedric compliments Ramane on how stunning she looks for the ball and says she will finally get to meet his friend, Cordelia, which makes Ramane hesitant. Left alone, Vince smiles to himself, surprised that Cedric would ever ask him for a favor. Still, for Ramane's sake, Cedric is willing to do just that. Love makes you do crazy stuff. When Cedric and Ramane arrive at the ball, everyone greets them warmly, and the room buzzes with excitement at their entrance. At the party, Cordelia approaches Ramane with a warm welcome. Ramane is captivated by Cordelia's beauty, and as Cedric and Cordelia exchange greetings, Ramane finds herself unable to look away. Later, Ramane confides in Cedric about Cordelia's beauty, but Cedric insists that Ramane outshines her and feels tempted to announce it to the world. Ramane playfully responds that Cedric is more handsome than any other man. Their cheeks flush at the exchange, and they quickly regain their composure. Truly, love is in the air. Meanwhile, Elena watches the couple and realizes their affection is genuine, suspecting Cedric may be deceiving her. She considers revealing Ramane's true identity to the Duke, but hesitates, remembering how narrowly she escaped the last arrow incident by shifting the blame to Sion. Meanwhile, Sion approaches Elena and pulls her from the hall to discuss their failed plot against Ramane. In the garden, suspicion brews between them. Sion fears Elena will blame him, but Elena retorts that he is the one she should distrust for failing. Sion, enraged, is about to strike her when a sudden noise from the bushes interrupts, prompting him to storm off. He sees that it's Vince who is hiding. Elena looks at Vince suspiciously, since he might already be hearing what she and Sion are arguing about. As they stroll together, Vince tells Elena about his partnership with Ramane. Elena, curiosity sparkling in her eyes, asks if Cedric minds Vince working with Ramane. Vince assures her that it is not a problem, explaining that Cedric is a nobleman who speaks to others only for business. Then Vince steps closer to Elena and confides that he talks to her for a different reason. He finds her beautiful. The confession leaves Elena utterly speechless. Alone, Elena realizes that Vince might like her, and there might be another way to solve her problem without Cedric's help. Elena is so gullible. Meanwhile, Sion returns home and notices that Diana and Rodin are missing, though he does not dwell on it. Soon after, Calypso arrives and sharply reprimands Sion for attending parties, reminding him that he was told to keep a low profile since Calypso had not yet secured the Captain Brigadier position. Next, Calypso smirks, confident that Diana and Rodin will carry out his plan, to kill Cedric and make it appear that Ramane took her own life out of grief for her husband. If everything unfolds as intended, Calypso is certain the coveted position will be his, especially since he has already bribed other officials to secure their votes. As they step into their home, Ramane turns to Cedric and boldly asks if he wants to share the bed tonight. Cedric is left speechless, then nods in agreement. Lying in bed, Ramane grows frustrated with Cedric's innocence. Unable to hold back, she climbs on top of him, kisses him deeply, and asks him to stay with her tonight. As she vents about his cluelessness, Cedric flips their positions, leaving her beneath him. He confesses his longing for her, and Ramane gives her consent, whispering that she truly loves him too. Just as their passion ignites, a sudden knock interrupts them. Cedric urges Ramane to ignore it, but then the butler's voice announces that a royal letter has arrived for Cedric. Hearing the news, Cedric rises and reads the letter. When he finishes, he tells Ramane that he must join the battle by royal command. Anxiety flickers in Ramane's eyes, but Cedric promises he will return with flowers before she knows it, coaxing a small smile from her. Please keep your promise, Cedric. A few days later, Cedric arrived at the campsite, and the captain of the First Order of the Eastern area welcomed him and thanked him for his support, even though he didn't request any. Since he received a royal letter stating that a backup would be sent, he gladly accepted. Something smells fishy. Hearing this, Cedric already becomes suspicious, but still stays and plans to check the site. That night, as Cedric reflects on his encounter with Ramane, a smile tugs at his lips, and he feels a surge of excitement at the thought of returning home. He relaxes, reassured that Sylvia is watching over Ramane. Later, Cedric hears a commotion outside his tent. Stepping out, he recognizes a man from that morning among the mercenaries. The stranger quickly assures Cedric he means no harm, and warns him that someone is plotting to kill him. He explains that he is helping Cedric because Lamaine once saved his life, and now he owes her everything. Cedric asks how he knows Lamaine. The man recounts the harsh treatment Calypso inflicted on the knights and mercenaries after the battle, and how Calypso also pushed Lamaine to exhaustion. The man then warns Cedric to be wary of the captain and vice captain of the Second Order, revealing they have been paid to assassinate him. The next morning, as Elena strolls through the bustling market, her thoughts swirl with questions about Vince's true intentions. Suddenly, a stranger collides with her and snatches her belongings. Before panic can set in, a gentleman intervenes and catches the thief. When Elena looks up to thank her rescuer, she's astonished to find that it is Vince who has come to her aid. After the chaos, Vince hurries to her side and gently helps her to her feet. They soon notice her ankle is hurt, so Vince offers to escort her home. Elena politely refuses, explaining her carriage is nearby. As Vince supports her on the way to the carriage, Elena begins to wonder if his feelings for her are genuine. Just as she is about to depart, Vince invites her to visit his estate so they can talk further. This time, Elena agrees, remembering she had already turned him down once before. Vince, you're such a good actor! Inside the carriage, Elena smirks, convinced now that Vince has feelings for her. She considers how she might use his affection to escape the manor, and wonders if Vince could be a better choice than Cedric, who's already married. Meanwhile, Jane drops Lamaine at the shop, and Lamaine assures Jane that she'll be fine, and when tired, she can rest inside the carriage. Afterward, Jane cast a wary glance at the abandoned building, certain someone had been watching Lamaine. After dropping her off, she returned to investigate. She found the place empty, but as she left, two men blocked her path and tried to threaten her. Unfortunately for them, they were no match for Jane's strength and skill. Meanwhile, Lamaine cheerfully worked on her medicines, satisfied after hours of careful preparation. When Vince arrived just as she finished, he asked if she would join the medicine distribution at the market, even though Cedric was away and Calypso might try to harm her. Still, Lamaine was determined to fulfill her mission, knowing her time was running out. Hearing her resolve, Vince agreed to Ramaine's plan and promised to help and protect her, even offering her medicine if she felt unwell. As he worked alongside her, Vince kept his feelings hidden, believing it was best for everyone if his unrequited love remained a secret. Later that night, Lamaine felt her body weakening, the pain worse than ever. She tried to steady herself, but darkness overtook her and she collapsed. When Jane saw Lamaine unconscious on the floor, she panicked and rushed to her side. Later that night, Lamaine wakes up, making Jane feel relieved. Jane also informs her that she didn't call anyone since Lamaine might not want others to know. Hearing this, Lamaine asks Jane to trust her and promises that she'll explain everything. Jane assures Lamaine that she'll not tell anyone and asks Lamaine to stay strong until Cedric comes back. A few days later, Lamaine is relieved after persuading Jane to let her leave alone. As she travels to the rural village, a man stops her and tells her to return to where she comes from. But Lamaine explains that she came to the village of her own accord and brought medicine to stop the epidemic. Thus, she needed to talk to the village chief. Meanwhile, Calypso is irritable since he still hasn't received any news from his people, especially Diana and Rodin. Thus, he announced that he would visit the Rogers house. Gosh, another problem! As they reach the gates, Roberto stands firm and respectfully blocks Calypso, carrying out Cedric's command with unwavering loyalty. Calypso, stung by annoyance and humiliation, reluctantly steps back, realizing Roberto is not someone easily intimidated. After 3 days spent healing the village, the people grow increasingly grateful to Lamaine, their health slowly returning thanks to her care. Seeing the village's recovery, Lamaine decides it is time to head home, remembering her promise to Jane and knowing that Vince and the others will soon arrive. Jane beams with happiness and relief when she sees Lamaine return safely. Lamaine eagerly asks for news of Cedric, but to her disappointment, all they know is that the enemy has retreated from the border, with no word on when Cedric will return. Lamaine heads to the studio to make the most of her remaining time. While she works, Jane bursts in with exciting news. Cedric has arrived. Lamaine dashes off to find him and is greeted by the sight of Cedric holding a bouquet. What a romantic gesture from Cedric! Hi guys! I hope you like this story so far. Before we reach the end, I wanted to tell you that completing stories like this is made possible because of channel memberships. If you enjoy full stories, please consider becoming a member. It comes with tons of perks and really helps us out. Hope you like the ending. Cedric finally returns from the battlefield carrying a bouquet of beautiful flowers. Lamaine, who has only been wishing for his safe return, is overwhelmed with relief when she sees him. The moment their eyes meet, Cedric walks straight to her, offers her the flowers with his familiar, charming smile, and greets her with heartfelt affection. The two exchange quiet confessions of love, unable to hide their happiness at finally being reunited after so long apart. I can already sense the healthy relationship these two have. However, not everyone welcomes Cedric's return. Duke Calypso is consumed with anger, realizing that sending Cedric to war only gave him another glorious victory and strengthened his reputation. His butler reports that both Rodin and Diana have disappeared without a trace, while every noble the Duke previously bribed now refuses to cooperate, each claiming to be too busy to assist him. The Duke is furious that his influence is slipping away and desperate to uncover whatever Cedric is planning. I pray for the Duke's downfall! Later that evening, after the victory banquet, Cedric stands by the palace window with only one thought in mind: to just see Lamaine again. Before he leaves, a maid quietly informs him that Lamaine has been suffering from recurring fevers ever since returning from the epidemic-stricken village. He immediately rushes to her room, hoping not to wake her. Cedric quietly opens the door, only for Lamaine to sense his presence and sit up at once. She throws herself into his arms, worried that he came home so late, tears gathering in her eyes from relief. Cedric gently assures her that he is finally home and promises to stay by her side. Their reunion soon melts into an intimate night together where they slept the night away. The next morning, Lamaine is flustered after spending the night with Cedric and is surprised to find that both the bruises on her body and the fever that plagued her for days have disappeared. Drawing from his experience treating wounded knights, Cedric believes her healing powers unconsciously turned inward while they slept, allowing her magic to heal its own owner for once. Darn! The stock market of fever medicine went down after this! Though Lamaine remains unconvinced, Cedric is simply relieved she is recovering and playfully uses the explanation to tease her about sharing a bed more often, leaving her embarrassed. Elsewhere, a red-haired investigator arrives at Duke Calypso's estate after Rodin's body is found near the manor. With Diana naming the Duke as the murderer, he becomes the prime suspect. Although inwardly shaken, the Duke calmly denies the accusations as the investigation begins to close in on him. Meanwhile, Lamaine visits a shelter where sick children are being treated and is pleased to see Vivian caring for them. Moments later, Vivian happily runs into the arms of a handsome young man named Killian. Both Lamaine and Killian are left stunned by the unexpected encounter, each wondering why the other is there. Before returning home, Killian privately reveals that Vivian is the woman he truly loves, and that his engagement to Elena is merely a political arrangement. Lamaine tells him he should end the engagement publicly, but Killian explains that because Vivian is a commoner, they need time before announcing their relationship. Hold on to Vivian so I don't snatch Killian away! He asks her to keep it secret, and she agrees. Taking the opportunity, Lamaine asks him to help deliver medicine to the orphan children. Impressed by her kindness, Killian cannot understand how such cruel rumors once surrounded her, and the two part on good terms, looking forward to working together. Later, Lamaine asks Cedric if he knew about Killian and Vivian. Cedric casually admits that he has known all along, and that even Elena is aware. Surprised, Lamaine realizes she is the last to know, but Cedric reassures her that no one will expose or harm her, filling her with gratitude for her dependable husband. He then informs her that the authorities have begun investigating Rodin's death after Diana accused Duke Calypso. Although Lamaine believes the Duke is capable of such cruelty, Cedric assures her that her identity and healing abilities will remain hidden. Where do we buy a man like Cedric? Elsewhere, Sion secretly admits to killing Rodin, but orders the butler to keep the truth from his father. Believing the scandal will force Duke Calypso to step down, he convinces himself that he will inherit the title and finally prove his worth. Elena is surprised when Lord Haribo invites her for tea. While admiring the restored garden, he admits the blue peril flowers remind him of Ramane, and assures Elena he never considered her suspicious, even keeping his distance because of her engagement to Killian. Elena seizes the opportunity and reveals the engagement will soon be annulled before exposing Ramane as a surviving Meyer, accusing Duke Calypso of hiding her powers, exploiting her in war, and arranging her marriage to Cedric for political gain, whilst Haribo quietly listens to the danger of her confession. "You are better than this, Haribo." Meanwhile, Duke Calypso is interrogated again over Rodin's murder and Diana's attempted assassination. Though he denies the charges, Diana's testimony leaves him cornered. Unable to implicate Cedric, he shifts the blame onto Sion, claiming his son may have acted on his own to earn his approval, disturbing even the investigator with his willingness to sacrifice his own child. He is such a dirtbag of a father! Elsewhere, Ramane finishes preparing medicine at the shelter. An elderly helper remarks that she has been glowing lately, making her blush, before warning her that a corpse was recently found in the forest leading to Trom Village, making her next journey even more dangerous. The elderly woman urges Ramane to let someone else deliver the medicine, but unwilling to delay treatment for the children, Ramane insists on going by herself, assuring her that she will not travel alone. Don't be stubborn, Ramane, please! Meanwhile, Elena continues feeding Haribo information about Ramane, claiming Sion has been threatening her to keep Ramane's identity hidden for Cedric's sake. Haribo then reveals that Duke Calypso is now the prime suspect in Rodin's murder, and that even Sion is under investigation. Elena is shaken, realizing Sion could expose her involvement if cornered. Sensing her anxiety, Haribo gently tells her that if everything becomes too difficult, she can come to him and they can leave with Lucia to start a new life together. His unexpected sincerity leaves Elena speechless. You can do better, Haribo! Soon after, Elena secretly meets Sion and warns him that his own father has shifted suspicion onto him. To save himself, she advises him to expose Ramane as a surviving Meyer and place all blame on Duke Calypso, reminding him that revealing a Meyer would earn him honor and rewards. Seeing the opportunity, Sion eagerly agrees. Grinning almost madly, he suddenly grabs Elena by the shoulders and declares that he will use Lily, Ramane's younger sister, to ensure Ramane has no choice but to obey him. During his interrogation, Sion denies any involvement in Rodin's murder. After learning that Edmund investigated his family's downfall, he exploits the shared tragedy, claiming they are both victims of the kingdom's corruption. He offers an alliance, promising to give him justice if Edmund agrees to work with him. Which, of course, he won't, duh! Meanwhile, as Ramane prepares to deliver medicine, a boy from Trom Village arrives with alarming news that Lily disappeared after passing through Natron Forest several days earlier. Remembering the corpse recently found there, Ramane panics and immediately sets out with Jane to search for her sister. Their carriage is suddenly stopped in the forest by Sion, who smugly reveals that he manipulated the village boy into luring Ramane there. When Jane moves to confront him, Ramane steps out instead. With a twisted smile, Sion declares that the time has come for the entire kingdom to learn Ramane's true identity. Sion threatens to expose Ramane as a surviving Meyer and claim the king's reward. But Duke Calypso suddenly arrives and strikes him after learning from Kedler that he murdered Rodin. Father and son turn on each other, trading blame as the Duke laments that Sion has ruined his ambitions. Still, he believes exposing Ramane will destroy Cedric, who would sacrifice everything to protect her. Horrified as the Duke treats her as nothing more than a pawn, Ramane watches armed men surround them. Though she could fight, she cannot protect everyone at once. Jane steps in front of her, vowing that no one will lay a hand on her, and fiercely holds off the attackers, despite being outnumbered. When one soldier breaks through and rushes toward Ramane, Jane throws herself in front of the strike. Jane will start beating everyone, trust! The blade meant for Ramane pierces Jane instead. Cradled in Ramane's arms, Jane weakly says that protecting her was all that mattered. Regretting that she never confessed her feelings to Roberto, she loses consciousness, leaving Ramane overcome with grief. Barely conscious, Jane reveals that her real name is Sylvia Carrot. She apologizes for hiding her identity. She explains that she has always felt like she is her knight ever since Cedric entrusted her in protecting Ramane, a duty she came to cherish. Ramane then abandons all restraint and reveals her healing powers, bathing Sylvia in golden light. Is this Wolowa? Never mind. Witnessing her abilities, Duke Calypso orders his men to capture her, but every wound they inflict heals instantly. As Ramane's emotions spiral, the golden glow darkens into a terrifying violet, forcing even the Duke's soldiers to hesitate. Though the Duke tempts them with a greater reward, they suddenly collapse before reaching her. Cedric arrives like a knight answering her silent plea, stepping between Ramane and her enemies. The moment she sees him, her fear vanishes, and she falls into his embrace. Soon, Edmund and Haribo arrive with royal knights, revealing they had anticipated Sion's scheme, and ordering the conspirators arrested or executed if they resist. Realizing all is lost, Sion follows Elena's ruthless advice and suddenly stabs Duke Calypso. As the Duke dies, cursing his own son, his ambitions come to a tragic end. Rather than showing remorse, Sion exposes Ramane as a surviving Meyer and demands that Edmund arrest her, insisting his crimes were committed for the kingdom's sake. Expecting Edmund to honor their supposed agreement, he is stunned when Edmund instead checks on Ramane and declares that no sense of justice is worth betrayal and bloodshed. Refusing to repeat the corruption that destroyed his own family, Edmund orders Sion's arrest, ending his desperate schemes. Sion is a different kind of delusional. With the danger over, Cedric assures Ramane he will handle everything from there. Finally, free from fear, she smiles for the first time since entering the forest. Elsewhere, Elena is unknowingly led toward her downfall. Believing Haribo's promise of a future together, she gladly agrees to end her engagement to Killian and leave with him, convinced her dreams are finally coming true. Elena is also delusional. No wonder she clicks with Sion. Meanwhile, Cedric, Ramane, and Edmund return to the capital. Edmund thanks Ramane for once saving his mother with her medicine, explaining that helping her is his way of repaying that kindness. However, he reminds her that with her identity now revealed, she must stand trial, where the kingdom will decide the fate of its last surviving Meyer. Following Edmund's instructions, Ramane is taken to the Imperial Palace to await her trial. Exhausted and still stained with dirt and blood from Natron Forest, she quietly prepares herself for whatever judgment awaits. Upon arriving, she is greeted by Lady Cordelia, who is saddened by her condition, but assures her that the royal family already knows of her efforts during the epidemic, and the many lives she has saved. Before discussing the trial, Cordelia insists she bathe and change into the clothes prepared for her. In short, my girl Ramane stinks! Meanwhile, Elena anxiously tries to distance herself from Duke Calypso's downfall. Expecting to discuss her future with Haribo, she gladly approaches him, only for the guards accompanying him to arrest her. Shocked, she demands an explanation, accusing Haribo of betraying her despite professing his love. Haribo calmly replies that she is simply facing the consequences of the deception and manipulations she once inflicted on others. Elsewhere, Sylvia slowly recovers while Roberto faithfully remains by her bedside. As he holds her hand, memories of raising and training her from childhood resurface, making him realize he no longer wants her to shoulder every burden alone. He now wishes only for her to awaken so he can finally confess the feelings he has kept hidden for years. Sylvia finally awakens and immediately embraces Roberto, revealing that she heard his confession while unconscious. Through tears, she admits she has loved him for a long time as well. Relieved to have his feelings returned, Roberto promises never to let her face danger alone again, and Sylvia happily asks him to accompany her to the city once she recovers. Sylvia deserves to be happy too! Soon after, the kingdom's long-awaited trial begins with the king personally presiding over the hearing. Cedric, Ramane, Sion, and countless nobles gather as the charges are presented. Unrepentant to the end, Sion admits to killing his father, but insists exposing Ramane was more important, repeatedly calling her a monster deserving of death, until he is forcibly removed from the court. Ramane is then brought before the king, where her identity as Zelda Myers is revealed. She admits to hiding her lineage, but denies betraying the kingdom, explaining that she has only ever used her powers to save lives. As the trial continues, Cedric's parents stand to defend her, revealing they have long known the truth and were the ones who arranged her marriage to Cedric. The courtroom falls silent as Cedric's mother reveals the truth hidden for years. Long ago, a Meyer saved Cedric's life, and instead of exposing her, she protected the woman's family. Before dying, the healer searched desperately for the child taken by the Latore kingdom. Years later, when Cedric survived a fatal wound, she realized that Ramane was that very child. She further reveals that Duke Calypse later exploited Ramane's power for his own ambitions, prompting her to arrange Ramane's marriage to Cedric to free both her son's savior and Ramane from the Duke's control. Everything is destined, of course! Before the king can deliver his judgment, Lady Cordelia arrives with the kingdom's youngest princess. Speaking on the princess's behalf, she reveals that Ramane's medicine cured the illness no physician could treat. When the king asks if she also provided medicine to the epidemic-stricken villages, Ramane quietly admits she did, explaining that despite possessing forbidden magic, she has only ever wished to save lives and live peacefully beside Cedric, hoping for a day when Myers would no longer be feared. Hating the Myers breeds a different kind of discrimination. After hearing every testimony, the king announces his verdict. Although Ramane concealed her identity, her countless acts of compassion outweigh her offense. She is declared innocent and freed of all charges. Sion, meanwhile, is found guilty of murdering his father, persecuting Ramane, and conspiring against the kingdom, and is sentenced to death alongside his accomplices. The courtroom erupts in astonishment as Ramane finally regains her freedom. The king further declares that the laws persecuting the Myers are abolished, hoping no one will endure the same suffering again. With the verdict delivered, the trial finally comes to an end. And that's what an iconic king do! Cedric immediately goes to Ramane's side, gently telling her she has done well and that they can finally go home. Overcome with relief, Ramane embraces him, grateful that their long ordeal is finally over. Cordelia soon joins them, teasing Ramane about her exhausted appearance before receiving her heartfelt thanks for testifying on her behalf. She then informs Ramane that the king wishes to see her privately, and Cedric encourages her with a reassuring smile. Meanwhile, Elena waits in the dungeon, convinced she will receive only a light sentence. Instead, she learns she has already been sentenced to exile. Refusing to accept it as she walks out, she desperately calls for Duke Rogers and even begs Haribo and his family to save her as she's led away. But none of them answer. Haribo watches silently, hoping only that Cedric and Ramane can finally live in peace. You brought this to yourself, Elena girl! Later, the king personally thanks Ramane for her service to the kingdom and offers to have her work with the royal scholars to develop medicine, promising generous compensation. Ramane politely declines, explaining that the medicines were created alongside the guild members, who deserve the credit, while Haribo should continue overseeing their distribution. After years of sacrifice, she asks only to live a peaceful life. The king respects Ramane's decision, and inspired by her actions, vows to protect the Myers with a new law that punishes only those who misuse their powers. He also promises the royal family support whenever she needs it. After thanking him, Ramane leaves with Cedric, who reveals that he, Edmund, and Haribo secretly worked together to expose Sion's conspiracy and Elena's crimes. When Ramane asks about Elena, Cedric quietly says that although they once saw her as family, she chose her own path and must now face its consequences. Cedric is spouting facts over here. Meanwhile, Sion refuses to repent even in his final moments, insisting he has done nothing wrong before being publicly executed. Elena suffers a similarly tragic fate. Banished to a remote forest, she wanders alone in the rain, clinging to the delusion that Haribo still waits for her. Chasing an illusion of a rose-lined path, she unknowingly runs off a cliff, bringing her obsession and life to an end. What a tragic end for the two, but an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. A week later, peace finally returns to the manor as preparations begin for a grand celebration honoring Cedric's appointment as captain of the Royal Brigade. Ramane and Sylvia arrive elegantly dressed, sharing playful banter as Ramane teases her about Roberto's obvious affection. During the celebration, Killian and Vivian officially reveal their relationship, delighting both families. Waiting in the garden, Cedric offers Ramane his hand, and together, they enter the festivities. When Cedric's mother asks if they will return to Luciad, Ramane recalls her promise to protect Lily and the orphan children. Rather than leaving them behind, she decides to bring them to Cedric's domain, where they can live safely. Cedric then reveals that after passing his inheritance to Killian, He has no intention of staying in the capital. Reminding him that their marriage was once meant to end in divorce, Ramane is caught off guard when Cedric admits he never planned to let her go, and married her because he wanted her by his side forever. Flustered, she quickly rejects the idea of divorce, making them both laugh. It's high time they separate and make their own mini Cedric and Zelda. That night, Cedric asks Ramane to leave the kingdom with him and build a peaceful life in Luciad, far from politics and conflict. It is the future she has always longed for. A quiet life protecting those she loves, beside the man who has always protected her. Overcome with happiness, she accepts his promise to cherish her forever, and together they seal their future with a kiss, stepping into a life built on love rather than sacrifice. Thank you so much for supporting this series until the very end. We hope you enjoyed Cedric and Zelda's story, as they finally have the peaceful and happy life they fought so hard to achieve. Your support has meant the world to us, and we truly appreciate everyone who joined us on this journey. Thank you again, and we hope you'll continue to support our future projects. See you next time!